Well, good morning and welcome to the budget meeting for the town of Acton. First one on the agenda is the transfer station. Mr. Bob.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes left, so make it quick. My time's up at 9:50.
Go for it.
Well, I don't have much to say, but we're gonna have a little bit of an increase in wages.
Right, but that's from the selectmen.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only other increase that we're gonna have is, for MSW, which is part of the contract.
Any of the non-zero.
That's only going up $377. We get a total increase of $2,559.
Okay, is this our first year of going at the $70.50 rather than the $89, or did we do that last year? We started that last year, okay. And we're going for a full budget, even though we're going to buy the compactor and the rate for hauling is going down, but we're gonna, because we don't know what's gonna happen.
Right, that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
We need to keep it the same until we find out.
Okay.
And when it does happen, if it happens, then we can, we'll have the money left to spend whatever you guys want to spend it on, I guess.
Well, it goes into the undesignated fund unless we decide to do something like we're doing this year and buy a compactor.
Right.
So the Warren of Finance will know, if you didn't see Thursday night, we awarded a bid to buy a brand-new compactor for $25,000, which Bob has left in his account, because we've been paying $8,000 a year to rent that used one that's up there, and it's,
Excuse me.
yeah,
It's been like $16,000 a year.
oh, it's $16,000 a year?
$16,000 a year. Because actually, for the rent on that, it's $16,908
Per year?
per year.
Okay. And it was used when it came in, correct?
Solid state technology.
Is this the cardboard baler we're talking about?
No, the one that where everybody puts their trash in.
One over with a compactor where you throw your household trash.
Oh, okay, okay.
And we've been renting that $16,000 a year for 10 years. The contract just came up, and Bob did some research and found out we can buy one for $25,000.
So it's less than what we're, yeah.
Yeah, and we went out to bid for hauling, and it went price per haul instead of price per ton, and we're gonna save quite a bit of money there, too. It's gonna be 210, is that what we?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
210 per load, and we were paying a lot more than that, plus we were paying fuel surcharge, and there won't be any fuel surcharge until we go over $5 per gallon on diesel.
So do I understand from this that we no longer have an ongoing contract for the hauling and the,
Right, it expires on May 31st.
okay, so all of that's going to be replaced with town-owned equipment then?
Well, the compactor will, but we still have to hire somebody to haul, so we had 3 bids, and the lowest bid was $210 per load, which is gonna save us quite a bit of money, so now that I know it's $16,000, I thought we were gonna save about $3,000 a month, but it sounds like we're gonna save even more than that.
Well, a year and a half, we'll have a new one on paper.
Yeah.
Is it brand new or is it used?
Brand new, it's gonna be built, we have to call them, and as soon as we call them, they're gonna start building it, and it'll be in place before Memorial Day. And the fee for maintenance is like $200 a year. That's if we change all the hydraulic oil and everything else every year. Other than that, it's just breakdowns, and it's not very expensive to maintain it. But it's not even close to $16,000 per year, so.
It's getting good for at least 20 years.
People we've contracted with in the past have been reasonably good about picking stuff up, things in operation. How are we assuring that we're going to be able to continue operations up there?
I spoke to one of the contractors, and chances are it's probably going to be the one that's getting the contract, and he said that, I told him, sometimes we have overflow in the summer, and he said that they would make arrangements so that if I call them up and says, we're full, Hopper's full, I need something up here, that they will take care of us.
We don't have anything in the contract, though, that assures that.
Well, I don't think they've made a contract up yet.
Okay.
We haven't, we just
That'll come
assigned the
probably with
contract Thursday night. We haven't signed any contracts with either the builder or the hauler. Yeah, we just assigned it Thursday night, so we will be doing that very shortly.
It's very easy, in my experience of bidding, to bid what's not in the contract. A lot more lucrative to bid what is not in the contract than what is in the contract. So I would suggest that you be very conscientious in putting that together to make sure we continue with the kind of service that we do have.
Absolutely, yeah, and the beauty, the gentleman that won the bid is actually a taxpayer in Acton. He owns property on, well, I probably shouldn't say, but he owns property in town. And he approached Bob to, let him know that he could do this cheaper, so.
It's difference of like, I think the bid was like 14,000 something compared to what we were paying 19 for last year.
Okay. One other question with respect to this budget. I assume we're having a discussion about this budget, is that right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I don't see anything in here in terms of income, and there's
Revenue?
an revenue from,
Yeah,
revenue stream from that operation.
as of the 1st of March, it was at 21,000.
For recyclables.
Everything we...
The cardboard, the
everything we
plastic, number 2
recover.
plastics, returnables.
And where is that in your budget
It
here? It's not.
doesn't, it never shows up in the budget.
Okay, this is an
It's
expense
separate.
budget, then?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And where does the...
Undesignated fund.
Okay, so it
At the
comes
end
in,
of the year,
it
right?
comes in as revenue and then just lapses into...
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Doesn't go back to the
All right.
transfer station. We don't get to
Okay,
take that out of our budget.
Why not? Okay, just so long as it's accounted for, I just want to know where it
Yeah,
is.
It is accounted for, and it's also part of our other revenues that we use to offset taxes when we do tax commitment.
Right, I understand that part, but I think that information should be included here in this discussion so that the finance committee is aware where there are revenues. It's the same issues that I had with the school the other night, where we have a group of articles and there are no numbers attached to it, there's no accounting for it, so.
We don't take the income and put it into an individual budget. We don't put it to the transfer station or the fire department. It just goes into the general fund.
Right, I understand
And then we
that.
put it as one fee in towards the taxes at the end.
I understand that, but I'm just saying.
So that would show in our
here,
budget, correct?
We should see it here, and I presume it shows in the town budget somewhere.
It would be in the
Right.
selectmen's budget.
As revenue, right?
This is a copy of what it was as of 3/10.
This is the revenue
This is,
stream.
yeah, it's 21,716.
Okay.
We usually run about 28,000
Okay.
for the
And
year.
if the taxpayers would recycle more, that could be even bigger.
Well, if you trumpet the number a little more prominently, they might.
Okay.
But I've always been under the impression that the town did a pretty good job, with the recycling. Certainly, you guys make it fairly painless to do.
Right, try to, yes, thank you. That, yeah, right now, we're at like 37% recycling, which is, according to the people in the state, that's good, because she says you're at the...
Right.
You're at the high end of the scale for what everybody else is doing.
And all the bidders on this contract had made comment about how well we're doing with the recycling too. They were very impressed with Bob's operation up there.
I think we always have been reasonably high in terms of what we recycle, right from the inception of the
Yeah.
recycling program.
Thanks to you, too, right? You helped with that years ago.
Yeah, I did. That's all right.
All right, anybody else?
You were mentioning a sort of a mandated increase in labor. Can you elaborate on that?
We've put the selectmen have not given raises for many years. We did do a cost of living last year or the year before?
Last year,
Last year.
1.7.
1.7 last year. And we've just decided that the pay, especially for the folks up at the transfer station, is just so low that it was time for us to give them raises, because transfer station, when I came in, we were getting phone calls every day, and complaints and concerns, and since Bob's taken over the place, it's just great. I mean, it looks good, they're doing a great job, everybody's happy, and they just deserve a raise. So we've done a 3% raise for all town employees this year, so every budget will show a 3% increase.
Carrier Limited too. Carrier Limited does the same thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
I'm done?
You're done.
Time's up. I'd like to say one thing before I do leave, though. I'd like to thank everybody here at the town hall for the help that they give me, and without an attitude or anything. Thanks, Scott, for all the work that he does up at the transfer station, keeping us plowed out and sanded and stuff. He does a good job, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
We're
for
on our
running
way.
such
You
a
called
nice place.
Triano and, was it American? No.
Atlantic.
Atlantic. Call Atlantic and tell them to get going.
You want me to call him?
Yeah, tell them to get going, get us a contract.
Okay.
Okay?
Triano's the
And they,
lower.
and you guys need to speak to him to get contracts written up for,
Yeah, I'll call Triano, because I talked to him just Wednesday, so I'll call Triano, but if you can get Atlantic going and tell them to get in touch with us to get a contract on, because they needed, what, 6 weeks?
5 to 6 weeks, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're doing an amazing job.
Yes.
You make our job easy. You make our job easy.
Okay. Thanks.
See you, Robert. Okay, next. Road commissioners, come on down.
Good morning.
How we doing? Doing fine. How about yourself this morning?
Pretty good. I don't want to hold that. I'm getting excited.
All right, road commissioners' budget is flat, but each of the road commissioners are putting in for a special project.
That's good.
And we also want to discuss salt and sand, correct?
Right.
We put in for flat, but we're going to discuss salt and sand because of the issue that came up for the last 3 years in a row, but this year it went to the point where we had to go and get extra money over the 15%, so. Floor is yours.
Well, I'd just like to say that, like Ted just said, we are running flat. You know, $76,000 for plowing, you know, 76 is, it's been working for us. I mean, it depends on the year, but it has, even though this year was a really long year, still is. You know, we're within reason of that because of the winter. My road summer budget is whatever, you know, whatever spring brings me, reflects on that. I always try to save a good little chunk for spring, and I utilize it throughout the whole year. Depends on what type of storms we get, windstorms, rain, flooding, and I try to use a lot of that good money towards one of my projects throughout the year to advance my roads for a good capital gain. The paving, every year I try to expend as much as I can to our bidded contractor for paving. You know, I try to utilize all the money towards paving. My first special project would be on Sand Page Road. It's basically $35,000, and that's just basically gonna entail of grinding the road. And I do have a surplus, we do have a surplus of gravel down at the school that, you know, it's 4-inch minus that I was gonna be using for a road base. And I would use some of the grindings to put back on top for grinding. And then, of course, use my $90,000 that I get for this year for paving that road, basing it and surfacing it. And my other special project would be just down the street, down here past the cemeteries, down in the gully. I'd be liking putting some guardrails up down in that area. I mean, since they've opened that up a year or two ago, it's really looks dangerous down in there, and it's been needing some guardrails for years.
I'm sure Lorraine and her grandchildren will be happy.
And like I said, the only thing we are trying to update on is our $30,000 for salt, and that's including of salt, sand, putting it up in the building and loading it out. We have been falling short with that for the last couple, 3 years, and so we feel that it should be updated.
Okay, so it's been 3 years that we've gone over on salt, and we've had to go back to the town, but this year, we not only went over the 15%, but then we had to get extra. How much extra have we spent since that town meeting? How much salt and sand have we bought?
$30,000 a year, isn't it?
We bought another $30,000 worth?
That's more than that. That's great.
I believe they've expended the 15%, and I believe it's,
$63,000.
That's total.
That's over the 90.
Out of the 97, how much have we spent?
Out of the $90,383, we've spent $153,514.
No, I'm just asking how much we spent since town meeting, the special
Oh,
town
since
meeting
town
where we got
meeting?
$97,000 extra to spend.
We just got the bill for that.
It was 10,000 for the salt.
10,000.
And we had 600 yards of sand, so
All right, so you have,
probably 20,000, but we have a lot of that material left.
okay, so you had a $30,000 budget, and then we went over by 15% or more? Did we go over more on the salt and sand?
The salt sands, well, pretty much we killed our budget all year. It wasn't our plow and sanding. If we
Yeah,
did
you-
over 15% on our plow and sanding if you're going by our $76,000, we would have been all set.
Yeah, the selectmen are allowed to go 15%. What I'm trying to find out is what actually have we spent on salt and sand this year, so we can come up with a good number, because we've gone over on salt and sand 3 years in a row.
Go by the number that we've got here,
63,000.
63.
Is what we've spent this year?
this year.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay.
What,
And we budget for 30,000?
No, we got 90,000.
No, just for salt and sand. We budget for 30,000?
$90,000.
90,000?
Right, we
Oh,
budgeted
so we-
90,000, we've spent $153,000 this year.
I think Ted is talking about just the materials.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. We got 93,000, well,
90,000, we've spent 153 this year.
All
Total,
right, just on salt and sand?
loading out, putting it into the building and loading it back.
Yeah, the whole cost, delivering it, putting it out on the roads is 153,000?
well, no,
And we
it's
budget,
$163,000, including the last $10,000 we just got.
okay,
$10,000.
163,000 this year, and we budget for how much?
90,300.
9,000, okay, so we're 63,000 over. Now, we went over last year and the year before, you got a rough idea of how much we went over the last 2 years?
I think it was close to around 30,000 last year.
Around 30,000, so your recommendation to change the salt and sand budget to,
120. Yeah.
Which
And-
Increase-
is 30,000 increase?
Right.
okay, and you're okay with that? That makes sense? Yeah, okay. All right, so their budget's gonna be flat, but we're gonna increase the salt and sand for $30,000 for this 1 year and see how it goes. Now, if I remember what you've been saying, Scott, you actually had that in reserve, but it ended up going into the undesignated fund, so we wouldn't have been in this position had that not happened. Now we do it as a rollover, correct? Anything that's left gets rolled over.
What happened back, I think it was 6 years ago, before I got in, but what happened was FEMA had given the road commissioners so much money due to an ice storm and an event, and that money is how they got the reserve.
Oh,
When they got the reserve, they were able to stockpile the 30,000 ahead. Then after time, the next year or two, I think it was the next year,
Well, it was-
in '09, they took that away, because we ended up having a surplus because of that. And then they took it away from us, put it back in the general fund. So, one bad year, and then another bad year, and here we are now, we're $63,000 behind budget.
okay. Do we have any money in the FEMA account?
We have received money from FEMA this year. I have, in the draft warrant, I have created an article to put that in its own fund for emergencies that come up for a declared event. So that's going forward. There's $13,000 that we received this year for expenses incurred last year.
Right.
And that's typically how the FEMA money works. You don't get it back in the same year to replenish your budget. You don't get it until a year later.
Okay, so if we have an event where FEMA gets involved, we can take that 13,000 and give it to the road commissioners to let them to use if a hurricane comes in or something like that?
If the warrant article passes at town meeting, yes.
Okay, and the town meeting's gonna give us that permission in case of emergency?
Right.
All right, so you'll start getting that money back now, too?
Last year, because we talked about that last year. Last year, what did we get out of that, that's 30 inches of snow, that, I don't know, we call it Nemo or whatever.
Emo. That
Yeah.
was $13,000. that we got back.
$13,000, and it didn't go back into our account at all. And the same thing with Irene, we didn't get anything for Sandy, but
Yeah, it was always going into the undesignated account, and that's why we've decided to do this FEMA thing, so that next time we have an event that, FEMA's involved, then we'll give you that money to run off of, rather than you guys using your own money to go, because it does take a year for it to come back, so.
And it originally comes out of their accounts.
Exactly, yeah, they're using their regular, their summer account or their winter account to take care of the storm, and they're not getting reimbursed, and they should be, because they, budget to do their normal job, and then a storm comes in and wipes out half of their
Right.
spending, then they can't do what they had planned on doing for that year, so that's why the FEMA money will come in. But of course, you probably spent a lot more than $13,000 on that storm.
well, I mean, we were lucky to get the money that we did out of it. That was kind of an odd situation when they came to us, and it really helped us out. Well, it really didn't, it didn't, because we didn't really see the funds. But, that during Irene, I can't quite remember what I spent on cleanup during those 2 weeks, but, it was $16,000, $18,000, I believe, something like that there. That came right out of my general maintenance. So when you pull that money out of that general maintenance, well, there's less ditching, tree cutting that, to prevent what we had happen. So, you know, that was a real big hit that year in it, so if we can get that rolling again. I agree, the $30,000, we're gonna have to increase that account, if not,
All right, so we're gonna go to $120,000 for salt and sand.
Now, am I correct in my understanding that you've consistently been for the past 3 years, $30,000 over what was budgeted? Is that
Not consistently 30,000, but.
Close to it.
Right.
if you average it out.
I mean, it varies from year to year,
Yeah,
but
right.
we've been going over on our salt and sand.
Do we know about how much?
You see where it
We-
is?
Michelle,
Okay.
can I make a request the next time I assume that you put this stuff together for us?
Well, yeah, I just
Yeah.
plugged it into the computer, yeah.
Okay, right, and printed it out, right, I understand that. Can I request that we have additional information here, an expense history accompanying this, and preferably,
trying to
I don't
find
know
it.
how available it is for 3 years, so we have something to compare with,
Absolutely.
and
Stockpile.
also anticipated revenue budgeting. I assume that you
We
also
have that,
budget
yeah.
that, right, okay. That would make this more useful, and much more easy for us to understand and deal with. Thank you. All right.
I just wanted to make a comment on the surfacing accounts. The surfacing accounts are staying at 90,000. However, the revenue from Europe funds, which helps fund that, it has decreased by about 20,000. So it's staying, their budget is staying the same, but their revenues are decreasing.
So what we're going to be raising by taxes will be increasing by 20,000, and I assume that that's state subsidy, right?
Yes.
The state road assistance, okay.
Yeah, the Europe funds are used for paving, and we had to go backtrack every September to find out where they were actually spent. So then we put the Europe funds into a paving account and then added more money to give them each $90,000 a year just for paving. That gives us better way to let the state know how the money was spent. But again, like Michelle said, they're going down $20,000 this year. It was what, 63,000?
We were at almost 70.
70.
Is there a reason why? Did they give you a reason?
The state?
Our governor
Yeah, it's just budget
cutting
cuts.
everything.
Now, I made a request to rename that account from surface and reconstruction, because we do use some of that money to prep the road, and the state, when they give us our Europe funds, it's not called Europe funds, it's called, you just-
Local road
Yeah.
assistant program.
Yeah. And that, by the state, when they give us these funds, it's for building a road up to a certain standard, lasts so many years, and, you know, for pavement and all that, so it's more than just pavement, so that's why I'm asking to have that renamed surface and reconstruction.
Rather than paving.
Yeah, because, you know, we both used it for, you know, getting the roads ready, you know, for the grinding part, you know, some of the ditching and all that, because like I had a problem up on Hams Hill this year on that project there, with the $90,000 that I had to pave, we had to use a lot of that to get it ready, because there wasn't enough money in the other account in my general maintenance, which is what I call general maintenance, getting, you know, keeping your roads swept, trees cut, ditching, shoulder work, to go and get that road ready to put the pavement down. So, because I can't just go and hot top it and call it good. I want to do the job right. So by renaming this account, paving and reconstruction, it's that anyways, I just wanted to name it that, so it's clarified. That's what we're able to do with those funds.
Okay.
Because that's what we're doing.
We haven't had any concerns from the state about what we've been doing with the money, right? Yeah. As long as everybody's happy, it's fine the way it is.
As long as, and that, I talked to Michelle, I don't know, we've been talking back and forth over time there about the, building maintenance fund,
Oh,
okay?
yeah, good point.
Every year, what we do, we get $15,038 a year in that fund for building maintenance. What we do out of that account, we pay the electricity, blah, 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 blah. We buy cutting edges, everything for equipment out of that account. So my recommendation was to move roughly $12,000 of that account from that account and add that into our wintertime maintenance account, split it between our wintertime maintenance, so we can use the supply line out of the wintertime maintenance to buy our cutting edges and stuff, instead of buying it out of our building maintenance, okay?
So everybody will know the salt shed that my students just built down there, we took out of the building maintenance fund for the salt shed this year, because there, there's quite a bit of money in there. Scott, do you agree? Do you want to do this?
There'd be something more I have to get involved with. Like I said, I haven't been too much on this conversation. I think right now, I mean, it's something we could think of in the future, but.
So you don't want to do it this year? Give it another year?
Something more to talk about, we need more accurate
Okay.
numbers.
How is the salt shed holding up? Have you guys seen any shifts or any changes? It seems to be holding
Since
fine.
it's been repaired, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, I mean,
90.
Yeah.
besides some shingles
Yeah,
coming down here and there, I mean, it's pretty much been about the same as it has been.
The
Okay.
lean-to off the front of it, during Hurricane Irene, we lost probably 90% of the shingles, and then Superstorm Sandy finished it off. I made some phone calls back last spring to a couple fellas to give me some ideas on what it would take to re-shingle that. Problem is, they didn't get much of a pitch on it, and we were kind of in limbo whether or not we wanted to put any money into it, but we haven't really had a change in condition since. I think it was my father's last term, I think. He had hired a company to go in there, and strapped up guy from, that worked for the company that built it, came and raced it. I haven't seen any huge differences in what the building is, but it's, definitely something in the future we're gonna have to start looking
Yeah.
at, I mean, we can't get insurance on the building, this and that, and it's gonna be a liability at some point, but right now, it's getting by. But that lean-to off the front of the building, if we don't do something with that now, could be an issue down the road.
well, if there's not much of a pitch, when metal roofing maybe make more sense.
The only problem is trying to tie it into the building that's there. Might be, I thought about just having someone go throw some bitchathane on it, a smooth surface that,
Right.
just to get the water off it, because right now, it's got a little bit, I think it's got some tar paper up there right now, and it's obviously not doing the job.
We can take care of that. I'll have my students come up, and you pointed out to me when we were there, we'll take a look at it, and we'll go up and do it.
That's be one other thing with the splitting up the accounts, or something like that, and we're putting the snow plowing or whatever into our account, and if we do have something come up with the building, what are we gonna do, start grabbing it out of the winter account to fix it, or we have our $15,000 or we have $4,000 left in surplus this year to put into it, it's designated money for the cutting edges, for our buildings down there, whether we buy lights, or have to do some more electrical, or put up a safety room in there, that's something we're gonna have to be doing, cleaning that shed out and putting a safety room in there for our employees, which our insurance guy has told us we have to.
A safety room?
Our safety room for eye wash, you have to have. All your
We talked about that last year.
labor issues and all your laws and all that stuff, so they can visibly see it or stuff like that.
Well, the only reason I made this recommendation was, in the last, 5 years that I've been road commissioner, I think we've probably spent a total, other than the electricity, maybe $1,500 to $2,000 out of that account on any building maintenance on that building. The majority of that money that gets spent out of it's for our winter maintenance.
Right.
So what we're doing is that, the way that line item is written up, it's kind of full of words, and I just want to clarify that. When we do projects down there, any project that we got to do down there could go as on the town floor every year. That's why we plan yearly. So this is just food for thought. We don't have to do that this year. It's just something that I believe, when you're taking out of an account for your wintertime maintenance, well, it's plain as
Great. I like it.
I have a question before we leave this stuff going for everybody. Do we have any kind of a plan in the event that this building should become unusable in the midst of the winter season?
Yeah, we started what's the name of the account?
Capital improvement?
Yeah, we've started a capital improvement account But we've been taking out of it to actually work on the town hall. We've
That
got
doesn't-
$30,000 in there now,
40.
40, and we're gonna put 40 in this year.
That doesn't go to the issue that I'm raising. I'm raising
For
the
an
question.
immediate fix.
Right. There isn't an immediate fix. The fact is, if the building should become unusable next December, in the middle of the winter, do we have a plan, or are we prepared to deal with that scenario?
We would have to go and borrow the money and build one.
That's not the
And-
question. The
and-
question is, what do we do for sand and salt?
We have to do-
How do we operate?
Old-fashioned way.
Do the old-fashioned way?
Right, go down to Hertz, buy a couple boxes, put some salt in it, and have a big stockpile of sand, and
And
put a
mix
top over
it,
it.
mix it as you go.
And mix it as we need it, you know, we would have to improvise, it would be a,
It's gonna be on the fly, whatever we do, obviously, if that does come, happen, but, you know, like I said, well, that's why we gotta start working on some sort of, gathering some money for this project. Now, I think 3 years ago, I started, calling around and getting some numbers on, different types of buildings, such as, some sort of a rub building, one of those big, like they do down in South Sanford there. Buildings like that, seem to be pretty cost efficient. Sanford put one up for their salt shed.
Milton has one. They've got one of those dome buildings. Kind of like what
not-
Nils Pearson has up at his house for his horse barn.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be perfect, and that was like 60 grand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quarter of the price, what they put over Shapley, I believe, was close to $500,000. Yeah, $500,000 for that. I mean, that's the Taj Mahal. I don't think that's what we're looking at, but we really haven't looked into it. It's hard to go and get prices on stuff when you don't even know if there's
What you're
money
gonna
available
do.
to do it. So, I did do some research and, just kind of getting a ballpark, but, something like that there, we're talking 20-year warranty on a building like that.
Right.
And-
How many years has it been since we haven't had insurance on that building?
well, they haven't had insurance on it since.
I'd say
10.
5 at any rate.
5 years?
Yeah.
10 years?
10 or
At least-
12.
At least 10 or 12
Has it
years.
been that long?
Yeah.
I mean, the last time that
For sure.
I met with the insurance agent down there, I believe 3 years ago, that's when I started looking around for a salt shed. He walked in and he looked up. That's all he had to do. He didn't look up when he was outside. He walked inside, looked up, and he said, yeah, we can't insure this. He already knew. He already knew when he got there.
We do have liability, though, so.
Right.
But we just don't have any insurance. If the
Right.
building should
To
fall in,
replace
then
it,
we
right.
don't get to replace the building with insurance money.
Going back to dealing with this in the future, have we given any thought to a location for a new salt shed? There was some discussion a few years ago about relocating that. Is there any planning going on
No.
with respect to dealing with this issue?
Not right now.
I feel like you could still put a salt shed where it is, just gotta have to be excavated out properly this time. I mean, when they excavated out for the one that's there, they put it on top of a stump dump and they knew it.
Right.
And, off to the right-hand side there, of course, you gotta worry about your designated wetlands and all that, but, I believe you could put it right where it is now, especially the type of building and where, I was hitting that, so, but,
or moved a little closer to
Yeah.
the road. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's basically sitting on half gravel and half stumps.
Yeah.
And you can pretty much, when you go in there, when it's empty, you can pretty much,
oh, you go in and you feel like you got a flat tire in the loader, it's sunk so much in the middle, it's kinda interesting.
All right. Anybody, any more questions?
Oh, I wanted to go over my special projects there, I didn't give you that.
Time.
Yeah, Paul has a question.
Well, that's certainly one of them, keep going.
Okay, what I've done is I've put in for a project
This is darker, I don't want
on the Buzzell Road, up past, Scott's, on the bad corner there, to the intersection of, Langley Shores. What I'm looking to do here, I got a quote from Dayton Sand and Gravel to grind and regrade and pave it for $32,832. And I did some figuring, about $8,500 worth of prep work, that's culverts, raising a little section on the corner there to take that bank turn out, and, putting the shoulders back in. Plus, I also put in a special project for the fire station parking lot. What I did is I went out, I'm asking for $9,500 to seal coat crack seal coat, and at the door entrance, there's a, huge hump in it, and water's building up at the door. We want to cut that out, have it paved back about 20 feet, repaved, and at the, far corner of the parking lot where the hot top goes up into the other building there, when they paved it, it comes down very sharp, and they're backing in, they're bottoming out with their, new ATV trailer there with that 6-wheel rig that they got, or whatever it is. You can see the marks where they're bottoming out. So, I asked for $9,500. The bids that I got for the, project, range from, $7,400 to $11,000, a little over $11,000. But with the best quote I got would be around $8,000 to roughly in that area there to seal coat, crack seal, pave. And I've got a little bit in there for us to go in and take out the existing hot top and regrade it and prep it for them. So, but,
And Peter says that this would give us another 8 years on that parking lot, correct?
yeah, I talked into the, seal coat company, because I don't deal with the seal coat a lot, and I actually talked to them about, some road work, doing some seal cracking in some spots, but, yeah, they figure, that's about it, 8, 9 years, and, it's really a cheap Band-Aid for another 8, 9 years before we have to really look into paving it, because we did the measurements out, there's over 30,000 square feet of parking lot, and, to pave that, you're talking well over 40, 45, 50 grand, to repave that parking lot, and that's not even, talking about reclaiming it, or, ripping up the hot top and re-graveling, if needed, so reshaping.
Paul?
My question still does concern special projects. You've both requested, special projects, which I assume are right on the top of your list of problem children that need to be addressed before they get worse. What's your general sense of, and especially since, every piece of road out there right now has frost heaves in it.
Yeah.
What's your sense of our effective rate of repair and reconstruction of roads compared to, say, how they're deconstructing before our eyes? In other words, are we looking at a neutron bomb at some point in our future, or does it look like we're more or less keeping up with things?
We started our neutron bomb about 5 years ago, and it took away our paving money. And so what we're doing now, what I'm doing is, we put in because we're asked to do a flat budget. And myself, I want to increase our paving money, but we decided, we'll keep a flat budget and we'll look at problem areas. So I looked at the Buzzell Road as an area where it's more than likely that the number's not gonna scare the hell out of you. So that's an area that I can fix. It's one of my worst problems. So, I got the Hopper Road, that's terrible. And, so I'm looking at it right now, we're gonna have the money that we need to stay where we need to be. It's really what it amounts to. I think our neighbor in town, their road commissioners, one road commissioner gets what we get together. And for them to keep up with what they're doing. So we're getting half of what we need to keep up with the rate of these roads falling apart. So what I've been, and Scott too, what we're doing is we're doing small sections that are really bad. And, instead of painting some blacktop on, we're trying to fix those problems right, and then move on, and hopefully at some point, get the funds that we need to, get back on track. But right now, it's almost an impossible task, $90,000 doesn't get you a whole lot of hot top. This year, I was talking about paving, after this project here, I was gonna take the $90,000 and do the Garden Road, part of the Garden Road, the triangle there of, County and Garden, and a piece of the Peck Road that's falling apart. Try to take care of some small roads, maybe feel like I'm gaining some ground. But after this winter, I'm driving down the Hopper Road and there's car parts, and I can't just go keep dumping sand in them, because I'm gonna go plow them out. I mean, it's dangerous, because, you know, you go along, you hit soft material, rip the plow off, so now I'm almost thinking now I'm gonna have to prioritize, unfortunately, and go down and fix a section of that road. And, you know, I've got some ideas of what I wanna do, talking about doing some grinding and some concrete stabilization in some areas because of the low line, the high water table. Trying to keep the project, you know, try to keep it within a budget that we can, you know, deal with, but I may have to do
Anything else,
that in
Paul?
2 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically what I'm hearing is we probably as a town need to figure out, and, you know, as, if it comes to a public hearing or something, maybe this year, maybe next year, but talking about, you know, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, if we are going further behind every year on our maintenance, you know, we're cruising for bruising here.
When I did that project up there on Hams Hill, you know, that was a bad section of road that washed out every year. Every year I'd have to go up and we'd spend thousands up there fixing, patching, and we went up and spent a lot of money this year getting that road, so we don't have that problem, you know. I bet we removed over 2,000 yards of material, we changed all the culverts and everything, and there wasn't enough money in 1 year to do that.
Okay, but are we just basically poking at one problem while 3 others show up?
We're
Or, I mean,
tiptoeing around.
Okay, so, I don't know, I'm definitely,
And I try to, you know, some of your roads aren't so bad, so I try to get them surfaced so they stay, so you can prolong the, you know, the longevity of the road. But there again, at the same time, like Sam Page down here, the section of tennis courts there, I totally reconstructed that road, and it's been holding up very
okay, so
well.
I do see a more substantial discussion about this. I think probably on a larger scheme of things, to make sure that we're not throwing too little of it every year, and eventually we will not be able to catch up. So that's sort of what I'm hearing, but thank you. I got one other thing here, on one of the departments, 105-22.
Gotcha.
Now, we have been trying to kind of hold these mirror images of each other as much as we can for fairness north and south. Last year, they were both at 84,470.
Yeah, they are
Yet I
this
see it
year.
substantially less.
Yeah, no, they are this year, that is, that's an error.
There's like two amounts that
Yeah.
are factors of 10 off from what they should
Yeah.
be.
And Ted, you had mentioned that there was a 3% raise all around for town employees. That doesn't
No,
apply
because-
here with the road
because they're-
commissioners or their crew.
Right, because they have a separate warrant article that says what their rates are. This
Okay.
is just hourly employees are getting a 3% raise.
Okay, well, I mean, they're hourly, and so is their crew, so I just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
So that
no,
does
the-
not include them or their crew,
Right.
okay.
We give raises, we're allowed a rate from $12 to $18 an hour for our help, and
I'm aware of that.
I'm explaining that to the rest of the committee.
But my
And what I do
question
is I give raises between that margin, you know, the 12 and 18. So I'll start a guy on 12 and he's flagging or whatever, and some of those guys will see a raise within that guideline, but, and I feel that what I'm getting paid is fine.
And I think that, that's not what I was questioning, because I definitely think that Scott's fine with what you get paid also, but I was questioning just because you said all town employees, so I just want to make sure that that was clarified to the townspeople listening,
Yeah,
that it did
no, it's
not
just-
include them.
Right, it's just the fire department, the transfer station, the town hall employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the 42, whatever that department is, 105-22 rather,
They
I can
are-
treat those as typos
Those
and
are typos,
essentially-
and they are equal. We wouldn't do anything different.
Okay. So if we were to change those two detail line numbers, that would be according to what your intent is, and
Exactly.
just sort of pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for our road commissioners? I have a taxpayer suggestion that I'm going to pass on to you. They're suggesting that you take all the bump signs and fill the holes on Milton Mills Road.
I think a lot of bump signs.
Thank you, gentlemen.
They're not in the right place anyway, so. Thank you. Next.
Chief?
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Dave.
See you, Dave.
We can hear.
Morning. Chief Smith, Town of Acton, Fire Department. Glad you guys all come out for the Budget Committee. The sun is finally shining, so
Yeah. Fingers crossed. It doesn't promise to be this afternoon.
I know it.
this evening.
So your budget is flat,
with the exception of the salaries, yes.
with the exception of the 3% increase. Now, I know we decided to do that this year. Now, how does that work for your volunteer firefighters? They're paid a stipend for how many hours that they show up and work, right?
Correct. We don't have a hourly rate for the firefighters. What it is the total number, and at the end of the season, we figure out call points, what we call call points, and we divide that into the amount that we have, and sometimes, like I say, it's $4 up to $8 an hour. Depends on call volume, how long the calls are, how many people show up to the calls.
So the 3% just gives you more money to give to them. It's not actually going to give them a 3% increase, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question. Blueberry Tower lease, didn't the county used to take care of that, and now it's our responsibility, or
Well, I think
do we
that's
get
something,
reimbursed, or what?
Ed's been dealing with that.
Yeah, we've been trying to deal with that. The county pays the electrical on that, correct, Michelle? Yes.
Yes.
Other than that, there's really been no expense up there. The
Right.
person who owns the property, the original lease was a 10-year lease, renewed for another 10 years. She came to us in December and wants money for it now. I believe it was a $1 lease for the last 20 years.
Okay.
She now wants $400 a month.
Oh,
So we're in deep negotiations between her, ourselves, and the 12-town group, to which 9 towns use that site.
Yeah.
Or use, I shouldn't say that site, use the 3 sites that are involved in the communications of the fire departments. I say fire departments because 9 towns involved in it. So we're trying to figure out exactly how to proceed. I mean, that's a massive increase.
oh, yeah.
All of us agree that that particular tower, or a tower like that is strictly used for communications, emergency communications through fire departments and such, it's not worth that kind of money. If it was a cell tower, you're making money from it, different story. This is not a cell tower. This is strictly used for emergency communications.
So if negotiations fall apart, then what do you do?
That's where we are. Well, we're not at that point yet, but one of the other towns had said, well, why don't we look at eminent domain?
Right.
Basically going in, taking the land. I don't particularly like that idea. I don't like taking people's land. I don't think that's I mean, that's like last-ditch effort. Last-ditch meaning after you've looked to try to find another site, and there's nothing else out there. We are kind of looking around for some other sites in that area. She's been gracious enough not to, push anything right now where we're still trying to negotiate. We're 3 months in, they're 3 months over the lease right now, trying to work this out. Working with John Sylvester from Alfred, who's part of the group, Matt Bors, who was the fire chief in Waterboro.
Yeah.
He's one of the presidents, or in with the 12-town group, the communication side of it, so we're working our way through it. I don't know where we're gonna end up. I mean, we went back to the property owner with 2 options. One was to buy the property, which is valued at about $11,000 according to our assessor.
With a right-of-way to.
With the right-of-way to it. Yep.
It's right on the road.
Well,
Oh, it is,
it's in a
okay.
little bit, but yeah, so to be able to access it, and like I said, the land itself, the assessor says that particular lot, which is 2.25 acres, it's worth $11,000, tax dollar-wise. We offered her that, she refused, which, okay, fine, you don't want to sell it, that's your land, you don't have to sell. We also went back, offered her $200 a month, and she came back with, no, firm at $400.
Huh.
So, that's kind of where we are. We looked at Mount Hope, this side of Mount Hope, to see if it's possible to put a tower there. there's hills and valleys that it's not gonna work. It won't hit.
It wouldn't, not
Yeah,
for
so,
an active.
it's kind of a difficult spot. You know, down in the hollow down there where, you know, that particular tower, it's up high, but I think the elevation's, what, 600 or 700 feet, I think. You know, the way it hits, it just, there's no other spot we can find that will hit down in the Milton Mills area. Lebanon uses it.
I thought he said Frank Munkowitz's land.
Munkowitz's land is a possibility. We just need to contact him.
What's the status of the old FAA site at the top of Milton Mills Road?
That's been shut down, they don't use that anymore.
But there's land there, there's a pad there, there were towers there, and those towers are still in town, that came down.
They're still in town?
Yes, they are.
Really?
I happen to know where they are too.
Well, the pads are gone, but the tower's still around, yes.
Yeah,
The
I
pads
guess-
are all gone up there.
I guess there's some land right in that area that Frank Munkowitz used to own that's actually higher than where that tower was, which is strange to me because you look at the land, it doesn't seem like it, but I guess there is.
What happened to that land itself? Is that land available? I mean, is it still, does the FAA still own it or lease it, or what is,
I always thought they were leasing it from that house that's right there. It was, because it was right on their, in their yard, so I'm not sure. We could look into that. But if, you know, if the 9 towns get involved, we pass it on to the 12-town lawyer to look at the agreements and everything else. If the 9 towns get involved, it'll be $400 a year per town, so.
Actually, 533.
$533.
$533, yeah. Per town.
Yeah.
You know, if all 9 towns put into it, so, you know, so, you know, it's $4,800 a year, you split that up amongst 9 of them, so, I mean, so you're not talking a whole lot of money. I guess my problem is more the principal, as opposed to the dollars, but, I mean, the dollars, you know, it's money, but,
And we're opening it up to the other 2 towers,
Yeah.
the people that own the other.
yeah, the
land
other,
on the 2
there's
towers.
3 sites that make up the communications in this part of York County. One of them, I believe, is on a site that F.R. Carroll owns.
Cornish.
He's nice enough he doesn't charge anything for that site. The other one is, what's the?
Fort Ridge.
Fort
yes.
Ridge,
Yeah.
which is, that's owned by Southern Maine Communications, that site, to where everybody pays for the leased equipment that's there. This will be the first and highest paid site out of the 3 of them.
And it would cost, what, 30 grand to move it?
30 to 50 grand to move it, put up a new tower. Now, if the other towers are still available, that's, you know, if you have a tower that's available, that's better too, but, yeah, 30 to 50 grand to make a new site.
Right.
And down the road, this site is actually going to need some improvement. Tower-wise, I guess it's in good shape according to Jeff Costas at Southern Maine Communications. So the tower itself is okay. Guy wires and anchor points are what needs to be updated. Not today, not tomorrow, but, you know, shortly down the road. So,
Thank you.
All right, back to the fire department budget. You're flat and you've asked for the same special projects, right?
Yeah, that's for the self-contained breathing apparatus and the fund towards the new fire truck down the road, which is,
Right, and we've decided to put how much towards that this year?
30,000 for the fire truck.
We, as everybody knows, we were putting 50,000 and then we increased it to 75 or 100?
So we increased it to 75 the last year, knowing that we would have to buy the new truck
Right, and
right off.
once we started making loan payments, what we've been doing is putting the difference between, because we had a loan for the reeval, loan for the fire truck, loan for windows, and is that the only 3? So we're at the end of the reeval loan, so we've been putting what we felt would match what we were doing before, the $50,000 per year. So this year, the 30,000 plus what we're paying for the fire truck. Next year, we'll probably be back to the 50,000 per year. And we're looking at how many years before the tanker?
for the 10.
The tanker?
Again, crossing our fingers. First frost we hit, it could be the end of that one, or it could last us another 3-4 years. I don't know. That's
So if
on
we
its
get
last
back to
leg.
if we get back to the 50,000 next year, we should be able to, we should have enough money that we wouldn't have to borrow to buy the new tanker in 4 years.
That's our goal, yes.
Right, because the tanker's going to be cheaper than the truck we
Yes,
just bought.
that is
correct?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Although every year goes on, things get more expensive, so yes.
All right. And new fire truck you guys are training on and ready to go, or?
Yes, we received the new fire truck the second time around. We started doing some driving training on it. We're gonna be doing some pump operations trainings. Our goal, well, not our goal, we are going to be doing 10-hour drive time for each driver of the fire truck. That's our standard in our town. It's a lot of money. It's a big truck. It's a different truck, so I want my firefighters well familiarized before they start going down the road with that truck. The truck has gone on one call. It's not in service yet. It did respond to the building fire call the second time we went there because somehow the gas got turned back on, the propane tank. And there was a small rekindle, so combination of gas and fire doesn't mix. So we were out in the truck doing some training with it, actually loading some water on it, so we did respond to that call with that truck, but it is not in service. You will see that truck be driving around a lot, again, because of the hours that we need to do, so, don't think it's just out there just wasting fuel and wearing out the truck. It is a good purpose and the need for what we need to do. Other towns, they do what they want to do. I want to do what's right for this town to get our drivers up to snuff. You get a guy that's in a little Volkswagen, hop in a big fire truck and take off, there's quite a bit of difference. I want them to be familiar with that vehicle before they take it out on the road.
I gotta tell you guys, the fire department did an excellent job with this contract. The truck came back with not all the things that they had asked for, and luckily, we had saved back, what, 80,000?
75, yeah.
75,000. We had saved back 75,000. They offered us this great deal if we gave them all the money up front, and we chose not to. And it was a good thing we didn't. And Peter and Bill Catanzi and anybody else that was in...
Bill Shields.
Oh,
all
Bill
of us,
Shields, yeah. They worked really hard to get all the things that we had said we wanted and they had agreed to do, but then they gave us a truck and they weren't done. So it spent, what was it, like 6 weeks before we end up giving them the final payment because they had not done what they said they were going to do on the fire truck. So thank you for,
Yes.
holding
Sad part, it was
holding
only
their feet
for-
to the fire, so.
Several $100s. It was only for a few $100s, and that's how, wow,
Who was the company?
excuse me?
Who was the company?
What I choose to call them or their real name? CNS Specialties out of Rhode Island.
The dealer or was the dealer?
That's the
or-
salesperson.
Okay.
Spartan has been very well, phenomenal with us, yes.
Any other questions?
Yes. Looks like the stipends are part of the increase this year. I think last time around, part of the problem, at least with the fire department, getting a potential 1.7% raise last year was the fact that the stipends were not increased as well. Is that?
Correct.
We gave the chief a 1.7, but we didn't give the firefighters a 1.7, and the chief declined his 1.7
Right.
because he said if his firefighters weren't going to get it, he didn't want it.
So this year, the stipends here are increased, and I presume for that reason, are the stipends in the other departments increased, or no?
What other departments?
Are there any other stipends in the budget?
There are, the health officer stipend and the forestry stipend, those have not increased.
Okay, so for this one reason that, what happened last
And the
year.
emergency management.
Right, yep, you may.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to give them a raise too, so, yeah, I mean, it doesn't come out to an hourly raise, it comes out to a 3%, which gives them more money to give to the firefighters, so.
All right, thank you.
Our volunteers do an amazing job. I was through that site down on Hopper Road when they were doing that fire down there, and it's just amazing to watch these guys. I had never seen them in action before, but it was incredible. They called in I was heading to Saco, and I already knew about the fire, and at 8 o'clock, I passed a truck coming from Alfred, another tanker, because the fire had gotten that big that they needed more tankers. So you ended up, 7 towns that were involved?
It was Milton, Wakefield, Shapley, Acton, Alfred, and Sanford. It came to that one.
Yeah, it had to be like $5 or $6 million worth of equipment on that site. It was just incredible how quickly it came and how fast they reacted, and all volunteers. It was just amazing to see. So our firefighters are amazing people.
One last question. This is year 3 of the breathing apparatus staged replacements.
Yes.
Is the rate at which the requirements are occurring, of the stuff that's, of the whole stock, going to keep that going for the perceivable future, or is there like a 5-year plan, or, what's the expectation?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this was the third year which will replace the SCBA's that needed to be replaced right off, and it will put us in the compliance that we need for our engine. Unfortunately, the NFPA standard says if you have so many seats in an engine, you have to have that many SCBA in that engine. The engine we were replacing, we had, it was a 4-seater. This one bumped it up to 6. However, we used to carry 6 on the other truck anyways. So that'll clean out for the ones that are in dire need right now. But in the future, I would like to continue putting money in small like this, so I'm looking at 8 to 10 years down the road, I have another block that needs to be replaced, so instead of falling behind again, just for like the city of Sanford, they're paying I want to say it's 380 some odd thousand to replace their SCBA this year to one lump sum block.
Good thing they have a lot of voters, huh?
So, again, it's not cheap. It's what we wear when we go into buildings. It needs to be reliable. The last couple of years, I've been fixing mine, and it's small things, but unfortunately, anything small in those that go wrong, you're done, and then you're inside the building. So that's not acceptable for me, for my firefighters. So again, I'm trying to plan ahead in the future to try to keep this $10,000 a year going, so when it comes time to replace, it won't be so painful for the citizens of Acton.
So after this year, we're actually doing a hardware swap out.
Yes. We're actually behind,
In future years,
yes.
would we be going with a capital account, or would we be going with replacing just the worst of the equipment that you happen to have on hand at the time?
I would prefer the capital improvement, because that's what it is. We're improving properties down there that's running out. The SCBA's needs to be replaced. There's other things that need to be replaced. LDH is called large diameter hose. We've had that hose on that truck since we bought the 1988 GMC, the other engine. We bought some 5-inch back then. Again, that's by use and demand. If it's used a lot, it wears out a lot, or incidents that happen at the fire, you blow them. We try to replace one at a time, but we have some age on that as well. That also is an expensive item that needs to be replaced. So again, just trying to put a little aside when things come up, we utilize the monies prioritized as needed.
So you're thinking an account for capital equipment replacement as it were?
Absolutely,
So
yes.
the SCBA's, the hose, or
Yep.
whatever else?
Yep.
All right.
We do write a lot of grants. We try to do what we can for replacement. We get grants out to try to upgrade our Jaws of Life, because again, there's a life expectancy on that as well. Gas meters, we just got to give Rescue Chief Jen Sayre phenomenal credits. She's been writing a lot of these grants. She just got $300 grant given to us towards a gas meter, which is going to help out. Upplacing, we got grants out for thermal imaging cameras. I mean, all this stuff that's very important, and whatever we can get out of a grant, we're not putting in our budget, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Do you have like a list of that when you do get grants, so the townspeople are aware?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a,
Reverting back to the 50,000 we got from Stephen King. We tried again this time around, we didn't get it this time, but $50,000. We got a $30,000 defibrillator. The, I don't know, is it $15,000 UTV rigging that we got? I mean, we've used that several times for broken femurs. If you have a fracture of femur out in the woods, you can literally bleed to death in minutes. That is a sweet unit. It's set up exactly for what it's for, and we've gone in our own town, Shapley's and Sanford's, and carried out 6 femurs with that rig alone already. So that's paid for itself already in somebody's life, so.
Plus, it's fun to drive.
When we get a chance, yes.
Can I, with respect to grant funds, is there any accounting process for those? And I'll start that question with, when you receive a grant, I assume you enter into some kind of obligation to receive that grant, right? I mean, they don't just write you a check.
The Stephen King grant was through the Ambulance Association, correct?
It was under both fire and EMS.
Oh, it
We put it
was,
under
it
a
was.
joint one.
Yeah.
This year we tried off and on, fire and EMS, and it
Okay,
didn't
my
work out.
question goes to this.
Right.
An obligation, do you sign something or you agree to something presumably which obligates the town? And so my question is, what happens, what's the paper trail on these funds?
Well,
And who incurs
to be
responsibility?
to be honest with you, I don't have a paper trail. I haven't been given any documents in regards to any grants that have been applied for in the town of Acton's name. What the rescue department, the ambulance association has done, I have no idea. But as far as anything, since I've been in office for the town of Acton, I haven't received any.
On that Stephen King one, she wrote the grant, fire and EMS. as a title. The ambulance association took it by the horns, and they took the grant money and they distributed the money out on what we requested. So actually, the town didn't have any.
Right,
any
the
say no.
obligation was never to the town in the Stevens
Correct.
grant.
The ambulance association is still private?
Correct.
Okay, all right. But fire department grants?
Well, that's something I'm gonna have to work with the treasurer with. As funds start coming in, we've never been this fortunate, and we're gonna take what we can and work with Michelle and see what we have to do.
The main thing when applying for grants is to make sure that there are no matching
Matching,
funds, because
yeah.
the matching funds have to be voted on by
Yep.
by the people.
Well, there's there's the reverse side of this too, in the event that the grantor ever did an audit and
Right.
uncovered some misuse of funds, the town
Exactly.
is on the
Yep.
hook. So
Yep.
it's necessary that the paper trail exist, and there's accounting for that.
Yep.
But, right.
Well, the only other fund that this town ever got was the,
Gym equipment?
say again?
The gym equipment?
Well, that as well, but from Hannon, back many years ago. Not that I want to break, well, I didn't say the name, you guys said the name.
That went through the legal.
That went through all the right process,
Right.
yes, yes.
Never did get all that
We had to have a town meeting, if you remember, to.
Yeah.
They're gonna
What was that, $100,000?
No, he promised 100, but he gave us,
But it was supposed to be 100,000 for 10 years, but the only one that came was the first one.
and that helped out a lot anyways for, I mean, we upgraded a lot of stuff for that money. It was well-utilized money, we did per diem shifts, I mean, that money was well spent, so.
Great. Any other questions for Peter? All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your time.
Doing an amazing job.
Yes.
Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Peter.
Jana, you're up. Take the hot seat.
Hi.
Hi.
So you guys looking for the same amount as last year?
Yes, I don't think there were any increases.
Okay. And how's it working out for you? I know last year he was saying that you were lacking parent involvement and spreading out to other organizations because you didn't have enough kids, and
What
I know
organization is this? I'm sorry.
Rec Department.
Rec Department, thank you.
113-01.
And I know the school is going way down in population, student population, so you still have enough kids that are getting involved with you?
Yep, so far, we're looking to get a soccer program back in the fall as well.
yes.
Yep.
Good.
Basketball was great. It started off a little shaky, but we ended up with some kids from out of town that came up this way, and it's looking like soccer may end up being that way as well, so.
I don't know if, probably most of you without children aren't aware of the different events the rec has held in the past couple of years where they're, over school vacation, they're offering more activities, where it's not a sports program per se, it's stuff for the kids that don't do sports, to go bowling or tubing or to the Y, stuff like that, so that it's getting the kids out still who don't want to play baseball or basketball or soccer, and it's benefiting the whole town rather than a select group of people.
We had Moose Mountain tubing event last month that 53 people turned out for. In April, we have bowling. We haven't gone through the sign-ups for that yet. We're looking to do a Sanford Mainers Day in June, kind of end of the season. We do Funtown Splash Town in August. This will be the third year we've done that, so.
Does your, yeah. Go ahead.
Could you tell me, where do kids sign up for this?
Well, we send home forms through the school. I've been putting the forms on the Facebook, because we have a Facebook page. I put them there. But other than that, sometimes we do sign-ups.
Okay, so it's primarily through school.
Yes.
Would it not be wise, since it's town money, to be in the newspaper so that homeschooled kids would be getting
Yes,
benefit
yeah,
of
we've
this?
talked about that, and that's something that we're looking to start doing as well. Putting in
Michelle
a smart
mentioned
shopper.
something here that I think might be something else, is during school vacations, a lot of towns, like Kennebunk has a program that kids can go for the whole week, has something every day.
We would love to do that, and we've mentioned that a few times at the meetings, but it's all volunteer, and a lot of us are working, full-time, and we really don't have a way of doing any kind of program. And we've only have like 3 or 4 people that show up for the meetings every month as well, too, so,
Really?
Bill's always there, right?
yes.
Does your group still do sports programs, and is that, my understanding was it used to be for younger aged kids at the school that were too young for the school programs? Can you explain that a bit, or?
We offer basketball. It's a strictly rec program, but it does start in the kindergarten. We haven't had soccer the past 2 years, but like I said, we're looking to start that this fall. The guy that's actually offering to run the program for us wants to start doing for ages 3 to 5, maybe starting something as young as 3.
Then the intramurals program at Acton, or when they play other schools, that is for the older age
Yes.
kids?
Yeah, we do. For basketball, we just play Shapley during the regular season, but then we do have a travel team that travels to Arundel, Waterboro, and we do the Master
They're
Music
younger.
Tournament.
And they're the
No,
younger?
they're the starting 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
Okay.
A lot of the 6th graders have been playing for the school. They started that this year, so we did have a couple of 6th graders, because they're eligible to play through the rec as well.
Are the fields used by the school as well, or just the
No,
rec?
no, just the rec. And Mousam Valley Little League uses the field.
That's a combination of towns, correct?
Yes.
So it's Acton,
Acton, Shapley, I believe Newfield.
Newfield?
Yes.
Any other questions?
So if all those towns are using the field, the upkeep on the field, is that shared responsibility also, or how does that work?
That comes out of our,
It does?
Yes.
And I'm assuming that our kids probably go over to their fields also, and they
Yes.
take care of their own
Yes.
fields?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the field up the road, correct?
right, on 109.
109, yeah. How'd your hot dog stand do?
Well, we don't have hot dogs because I don't have electricity, but that's another thing I'm working on. I'd really love to get electricity to that concession stand.
Yeah.
We got that over at Hillview Barns
Right.
in Lyman, and they did an amazing job with that concession stand, built it exactly the way we asked. And we did chips and crackers and soda and candy, and we did really well with it, but who doesn't want a hot dog at a baseball game?
That's right.
I know,
How about a grill?
a grill. Well, you can start getting into,
Liability?
liabilities and stuff, so.
Have you-
Gotten any guesstimates as to what it would take to bring in the electricity?
Right.
We're working on that now. We discussed it at the last rec meeting, and we're trying to get a little more information. We need to get an electrician there to see exactly what it would take to get the electricity, like whether we want to go overground, overhead, underground, or
What that would cost?
exactly. So we have to get the electrician there first, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I'm reasonably sure you'd be able to get some donations to get that put together if, once you
Yes.
got a number.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of paying for the electricity that you use.
Right, and the minimum it would cost per month would be $11 in the off-season, so,
That could work.
yeah.
Any of the stuff that you want to get out there, other than going through the school, you can contact the town hall, we can put it on the cable channel.
Okay.
And we can put it on the town website too, so.
Great.
Anytime you want to get out to the people in Acton, just let us know, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I've thought a few times of putting it in Lorraine's column, and I've done
Yeah,
that.
there's another,
Yeah.
yeah, and that way you don't have to pay for the newspaper, you just let Lorraine know, she'll put it in her column,
Excellent.
and then we can put it on the cable TV too.
Yeah, that's a
Okay, I'll
good
do that.
idea of getting it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Wow.
Are we actually caught up at this point, or is that?
We're 5 minutes
10:20 is
behind.
APAP, so we're 5 minutes in.
PAT,
All right,
it's APAT.
Acton Public Access Television.
oh, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so, yeah, come on down, Mike's here from APAT. We have never had APAT in this process before because we were under the impression that APAT money, which is about 40 grand a year, could only be used for cable TV. And we discovered this year that that is not the case, that this is actual money that the town can vote on how it's spent, and any reserves can go into the undesignated fund. We don't have to keep it in a special APAT account anymore. This money comes from anybody that has cable TV in Acton, pays a fee of $3 or $3.50 per month, and their revenues are about, this year, were about $900,000 in the town of Acton for APAT, and then they took the $3 or $3.50 per person or per account and gave us $40,000 for the APAT account. So Michael is here with his budget for the cable TV for this year, which will include all the fees for phone, electric, and cable, and all the people that film all of our meetings, and his salary. So, Michael?
All right, like Ted mentioned, since I've been on board running the Acton Public Television, I have been anticipating our unexpended budget to roll over to our next year's budget. So I've been tying it into my expenses every year, the rollover. This year I did not, so I found some cuts. This is basically a bare minimum budget, including almost the average meeting stipend that we'll cover for the year. So we're down $4,361 from last year's budget. And since I've been on, I've been trying to make things more efficient, streamlined. Our budget's been going down each year in an attempt with this. So whatever's left over at the end of the year, you guys can play with.
So everybody knows, when Michael came in and took over, we were having a lot of trouble with the cable station, and most of it was because they had changed from what we got with the package when we started the cable station. MetroCast gave us computers and all the equipment to do the cable TV, and the next people that came in and got involved tried to change it all over to, what do you call them?
It's just incompatible.
Yeah, it wasn't Mac. It wasn't Mac products, so it didn't work. And then they tried to get it to work, and it wouldn't work. So when Mike came in, we had to get all new computers and get everything going, so there was quite a bit of cost in the beginning. He's done a great job and redone everything, and just bought a computer that's going to store all of our, because now that we're in the digital age, we have to keep everything we video just as much as we do with all paperwork that we have. Everything has to be kept for so many years. So he's got a storage capability of keeping everything that we film for many, many years.
Yeah, for this past year, I've tried engineering retention redundancy. So everything that we record, broadcast, is now on YouTube. So you can Google Acton Selectmen, you'll find hundreds of videos. So if there was ever a catastrophe here, we'd have that redundancy. The device, the machine we just bought, has 40 terabytes of storage. It's ginormous. It should last 10 years. And I'm also anticipating or planning on having a backup of that, just in case there is potential disaster there. To least expense possible, I've engineered redundancy for our retention, so we maintain these videos for legal and legal purposes.
I have a question. We have a contract with MetroCast, correct? Mm-hmm. How long is that contract for?
My understanding, it expires in 2018, and even if we do not maintain a video broadcast station after 2018, MetroCast customers are still required to pay that franchise fee. The benefit of that is the town can do what they want with that franchise fee.
So do I understand that we could not have like Time Warner coming in to the town?
We could have Time Warner come in, but they would have to rewire everything.
Yeah.
Because MetroCast owns all the cables that are in town.
And it would be a question of, does Time Warner want to spend that kind of money for the revenue that they'd be, making here? So that's a corporate entity level kind of question. Does Time Warner want to buy out, MetroCast's ownership of the wires and the cabling and the physical networking here?
That's why MetroCast wanted to deal with the town before they would come in, because they spent a fortune on running the cable all through town, and they wanted so many years to make sure that they got their money back. So Time Warner can come in anytime they want, but they have to rewire everything. And they're just not going to do it.
No, you can't have two.
You can't have
have
two.
one.
Yeah.
And it's still up to the corporation is whether they want to, take on that endeavor.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question basically about budget effect. So in past years, the income from MetroCast has largely offset, more or less offset the expenses of running APAT, and so basically it was sort of below the radar screen. So now we have it officially on the budget. Obviously, we're gonna see a $40,000 increase in the gross budget, because we're now putting it on the budget. Is that, I assume the net budget perhaps would decrease, because you generally tend to run it slightly more income than outgo?
It's completely all income, like even my final number is all revenue. Like.
Right, but I mean, what's coming in from MetroCast exceeds what it costs to run APAT, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
so our net
substantially.
budget would actually go down a little bit as a result.
And in fact, my previous years, I've generated a substantial amount of revenue, so I hope that, process maintains.
I think it's gonna take a warrant article if we're going to lapse that revenue.
And that's
into
my
the
next
general
question,
fund.
whether they're gonna be included on
Whereas
that.
it's been in the carry forward reserve line before, that we carry forward all our special little funds and appropriate them to the specific departments. It's gonna be a warrant article to change that if we are going to decide to lapse it into the undesignated fund, instead of funding it specifically with the revenue.
So they're being handled a little differently than our other departments, which default to no, and we have the article at town meeting to include, to roll, and you're saying, in this case, they're gonna roll unless we do something different.
Exactly.
And what's your expectation of whether we're gonna continue to roll this department, or?
Yeah, we're not gonna make a change this year, because it's just, we're just made aware of this. We had MetroCast come down, and they just told us this, because we were under the belief for many years, well, since it started, that money, because it was only charged to people that have cable, MetroCast, that money had to be spent just on the cable TV. And MetroCast says, no, that's not the case. It's money for the town to do whatever they want. So for this year, we're not gonna ask that question. And we're gonna wait and see how it goes through the next year. Because money comes in a weird time too, right? It's a calendar year instead of a fiscal year?
Yeah, it typically comes in January. This year, they had a little glitch in their accounting staff, and they sent it to us in 2 separate payments. So we got one in like November, and then the other in January.
So that means then that for this foreseeable year, for the next year, that money will either sit in reserve or be dedicated to APAT, and that's all. There won't be any.
Exactly.
And that's the way it's been
Any other
since.
use applied.
No undesignated fund for it.
Right, and that's the way it's been since APAT started. It's always just stayed for APAT, and that's why we never had APAT come to these budget meetings. But now that we know that that is town money, we have to bring it into the budget process, so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions for Michael? No complaints about the cable channel? That's good news. There used to be so many of them, and now there aren't. That's great, Michael.
Oh, Richard
Thanks a lot.
Did you know it was always once a week?
And those of you who don't know, Michael is also the technician down at the Acton School. He takes care of all the computer and electronic needs down at the Acton School. And we're with code enforcement.
It's 10215.
Morning, Ken.
Morning.
So you are flatlined except for a 3% raise for you and your assistant, correct?
He does have an increase.
Ooh.
Equipment.
It doesn't look like it. Oh, excuse me.
$300.
The wrong thing here.
And that's, is that for something specific or just because?
Yeah, we want to get a laser level transit so we can verify the location of camps when we have to relocate those back when they're being reconstructed by the lake. They can only be elevated by 3 feet. We were relying on the surveys to do the work, and we had some sketchy surveys come back, so we need to verify what's out there more accurately prior to the existing camp being removed.
Okay.
Are you already using a GPS or something of the kind to kind of figure out where things are located? or-
Currently, we have a pop level, and I'm just doing a benchmark on the tree, but we went to the theory of having a surveyor establish it for them prior to ripping it down and then reestablishing it, but some of the wording they were starting to use was really stretching stuff, and you really had to keep an eye on it, so that's our main intent, is that we'll be able to establish it ourselves and have the surveyors do the work too.
So what you're doing basically is auditing what the surveyors are doing.
Correct. We're putting a benchmark on the property without them knowing, and then we can audit what the surveyors are telling us.
So they're retaining the liability.
Correct, and giving us a certified plot plan.
Thank you.
Ken, last year with the possibility of that new zoning going before the town, which didn't happen, and they're still working on it again, you talked about the, if that zoning should go through, that you're gonna need another, code enforcement officer?
Correct.
Did you let them know that?
That would keep me part-time by bringing somebody else in. We talked about that with the selectmen again this year. It's really not that zoning, it's the town has so much shoreline zoning in town, and there's so much enforcement to stay on top of that, it's nearly impossible, even for a full-time person, to keep up onto enforcement. I wouldn't want to say that a new person would bring his wages in fines and penalties, but he would easily. But it's not the way to pay for the position. It would just be to offset and to keep these complaints down to a one-week time frame versus some of the stuff we're chasing 2-3 years old still.
Can you say you're part-time?
Correct.
How many hours a week are you?
The job description is 25 hours a week. I'm 31 to 35 though, working, and it's a salary position.
Okay.
All right, so just with the zoning we have now, you're saying you already need this person, and then they're looking at this new zoning for next year, so that would increase it even more, correct?
Definitely. When we expanded the resource protection about 3 years ago, the state requires any wetlands greater than 10 acres has resource protection around it. The town went down to 2 acres of wetlands, and it's any wetlands, forested wetlands, which is just some poor soils and some vegetation. It's a wetland that we need to regulate. I am regulating these shoreline zoning rules at the end of Fox's Ridge out on the Lebanon line, out in that area there where we're doing 30% for people and stuff like that, which normally we're doing around the lakes. So now with this resource protection has expanded around all these areas, that there's houses everywhere, these regulations are all over now. We'll have a case going in front of the zoning board in a couple of weeks at the beginning of Hopper Road, where somebody's trying to build on a lot that he's had for years, and now he can't build because of the resource protection has expanded and basically has taken his property.
And when he bought the land, he could have built a house. but
Yeah,
he-
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
They're all afraid of you.
Well, I'm just curious, like this year, last year, how many permits did you, for new house construction in the town, did you?
New house growth permits, I think we were 26 or so for growth permits.
And what is that compared to, because I know we've had a drop with the numbers in the school, I'm just curious.
That's back up. All the construction is on the water. I don't think, I probably have 2 or 3 houses inland, but it's ripping down the camp and replacing it. And one of those houses probably consists of 10 or 12 permits, between the shoreland permits, the building permits, the electrical, plumbing, tree removal. The tree removal is really, really tough to track down how many they're taking down before they take it down, and then the replanting, that they've actually done the replanting and is maintaining it. That takes a considerable amount of time, and it's a $25 permit. So, all that is really doing is assuring the water quality. It's not paying for my time by any means. I mean, it's great that they come in to pull the permit, so if we change that to a $200 permit, to justify the time, but, less people are gonna be more active to come in and pull the permits.
Holly, this may be of interest to you. Our net permit income, including both building permits and plumbing permits, is about $43,000 for this year.
How long has it been since you had the waiting lines for the growth permits?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years, I'd say, as soon as the economy dropped, which is better. I think that we don't have that big stampede and that big cluster of people. Now people can acquire them all year long, but again, it's all waterfront homes. There's 3, 4 homes a year, easily over $1 million, $1.5 million on the water, the camps, ripping down the camps and replacing them.
What is our current permit fee for doing that on the lakefront?
The fee schedule probably has 15, 20 different areas, establishing a 911 number, replotting. Anytime it costs the town money, we make sure we get that back, and then it's $4 per thousand on the cost of construction, which is,
With the schools.
Oh, sure.
many other towns are a lot more. I don't know if any are less, but to come in for a $200,000 home, you're probably looking at $1,500 for a permit.
When was the last time that schedule was updated?
You updated some in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, a few years ago, we did just tweak it because the plotting had changed from cartographics. We got that in line and the 911 numbers in line. We hadn't really changed a lot of it. We were looking at changing some plumbing fees because the state went up and stuff like that. So we were looking at readdressing it, basically just so the office pays for itself versus, turning a profit or anything like that.
This income increased substantially over the previous year, too, for that, all that much.
Some of it was really focusing on the shoreland zoning stuff, getting the tree permits through. I mean, it's only $25 a piece, but I think we did probably 50 to 75 tree removal permits alone. So, I mean, that's just a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah. Well, it was about a $10,000 increase.
Yeah.
And from the fiscal year 13. 14. Okay, excuse me. Nancy, you?
On these revenues, what is tree growth? Is that reimbursement from the state for property that we tax at a lower rate for tree growth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Ken.
Awesome. Thanks for waiting for me.
Are you budgeting for additional help? Has there been
We talked about it this year, and the selectmen wanted me to wait one more year and we'd take a look at it again. Because it's an increase.
What happened was, last year, they had this new zoning coming forward, and at the last minute, we found out that it wasn't something that we wanted to put to the town because it just wasn't ready, so they're working on it still. This is a committee out of the planning board. They've set up a separate committee. Once if that zoning should pass, it's gonna, double Ken's job, so we would have to look at hiring another code enforcement officer just for that new zoning. And also to help them with all the zoning that we just passed in the last couple of years, too, so.
And what is our status with respect, excuse me, I didn't know you were dismissed, with our status with respect to complaints? You're indicating that
It depends on the level of complaint. If it's a sewer running straight into lake, something to take care of right away. If it's somebody complaining about their neighbor was, chickens in the middle of the forest, it's hard. It's hard. We have, we prioritize them in a 1 through 5, and the ones we take care of, the 5s, if they make it to the top, we try to get to them. The ones people see that they drive by every day, that's their most important ones for the people complain about. But you just get off Main Street a little bit and go out into the woods a little further, there's much bigger issues that we're taking care of versus the ones you see every day.
And with respect to our waterfront, do you go out in boats anymore and see what's going on out
We
there?
hadn't the last couple, but I've been on snowmobiles this year, and all I need is a half hour around the lake, and I can create a month's worth of work. And we're not looking to create it, but, well, it's tough to create all that work and then not follow through with it. It just becomes more frustrating, but it's not fair to the people that pull the permits, have the inspections, go through the process, and their neighbor doesn't do anything. So, my administrative assistant is really good. She's really stepped up to the plate the last year or so. She's drafting the letters. I just give her a picture and an address, and she can basically draft the whole thing for me.
So what you're saying is, you're a little uncomfortable with where we are?
I could wait another year
Yeah, okay.
to
I don't
bring
have
it
a
in.
problem with that, I'm just trying.
The zoning proposed is, one of the issues with it is limited impact development. So when these people do the work on the waterfront, the regulations are going to have them install certain things to protect the water quality. The toughest part with it is maintaining them. Am I gonna go out every 5 to 10 years to make sure that they've cleaned the stone, the vegetation's still alive? It's gonna be harder. So that's what the subcommittee's really trying to wrestle with.
Is technology helping us out here? I mean, we have updated photographs. I'm looking in my backyard.
I can look on Google Earth and see stuff from last year,
That's it.
There are plenty of towns that are tracking stuff on Google Earth. Didn't see that swimming pool, new roofs, all types of stuff.
Yeah.
But those are towns that trying to justify their jobs and trying to create enough hours for themselves too. It's on the other side of 95, most of them.
Drones.
The drones are out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really all set this time? Yeah, don't hear me leave.
Probably not, I'll call you though on the telephone.
All right, thank you. Enjoy your Saturday.
Thanks, Ken. Michelle.
I guess I'm next.
This is 102-11.
Planning
Correct. The 3% salary change is reflected in the salary line. I left the deputy salary line where it is, whereas I don't really, other than Jennifer, who is my appointed deputy treasurer for the collection of tax liens and research and so forth, I don't have anybody physically in the office every week. I do have, I have a woman that comes and helps out with filing and miscellaneous various projects, but, so there's not really a lot of money needed there. I felt that taking into account the 3% increase on Jennifer's stipend that she gets for the work that she does, that there's still enough money in there to do the other miscellaneous filing and whatnot. The miscellaneous expenses and the office supplies, I've kind of switched them because basically that's what the miscellaneous expenses are in my office, are office supplies, checks and envelopes, very basics. The training, I dropped down to 200. I was looking at the schedule as to what training opportunities were available through MMA this year and through the Tax Collector and Treasurers Association. And of course, any training that I go to is split, the cost is split with the town of Shapley because they're benefiting as well. So I go to a class, the town of Acton pays for half of it, Shapley pays for the other half, and likewise with the mileage and in a case where lodging might be necessary. Dues and membership, I dropped down to $50. I was a member of the Government Finance Organization of America just to get discounts on books. They really don't offer anything worthwhile to me. The books I have now, so until they come out with a new one, I don't see, the justification for renewing that membership. Lien costs for discharge. We have moved that, not only the lien discharge costs, but the filing costs. We've moved that to the regular municipal management for one big reason is that all of those monies come back. So anything we spend at the registry comes back to the town through a tax lien. And that the whole tax lien, the whole tax process and all of that is reimbursed. The fees went up almost 50% this year. So there is an increase within the municipal management line for those fees combined. But we just felt like it was more not a dedicated expense to the finance department, but municipal management in general. And other than that, mileage and tolls, I brought that up $50 because I've been looking at my average per month, and at the end of the year, I'll probably be $50 over in that line, and I'll have to account for it somewhere else. But I tend to, in previous years, I know there was an issue with overusing the mileage. I go to the bank when there's a significant amount of money that would hurt us if we lost it. You kind of have to weigh, is it going to cost me more in mileage than I have to take if we only brought in $12 in cash that day? It's probably not worth it for me to drive to the bank to make that deposit. So just combining those trips, and also, of course, when I make a trip with Shapley, I can swing by and pick up the cash here on hand if there's a significant amount, specifically at tax time when you're getting significant amounts coming in within an hour, just so that there's not a lot of cash on hand and not a lot of liability in the building for cash disappearing, so to speak. But that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Your miscellaneous expense, Michelle, you're getting rid of that this year? or-
Yeah, I moved it up to office supplies, which is where it should have been all along, because that's what the expenses are. They're- I was gonna leave it there for margarita machine, but
I'll be your deputy.
Taken. Fight you for it.
Are you part-time in Chapley also?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Elected in
You're
Chapley.
elected, you're elected treasurer, yeah.
Do we get the big bunch of checks from the banks yet on April taxes?
no. Those won't come until the last week.
April 14th,
The 14th?
yes.
But we are seeing a significant amount of money come in already, from, mostly out-of-state people sending it in before they forget.
Want to be sure they paid ahead of time.
Nice.
You always wait till the last minute and mail it.
Anybody else?
Here for sure.
Well, didn't go up yet.
I didn't time myself, I know.
Which doesn't
She was gonna take as much time as she needed.
I'm only at 4, so.
He will not, even if he's done, he will not. Give him
Jennifer?
extra.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
What account are you? What number?
I'm gonna do the town clerk first, so it's 102-12-501 is where we start.
Page 2.
Everybody with me?
What do you mean you're gonna do that first?
Well, I have a variety of accounts that I'll be speaking to you about, Mr. Gore.
All the hats?
I'm sorry?
I know she wears a lot of hats, but, go ahead.
Okay, so the town clerk tax collector budget first covers just my duties under town clerk tax collector, and like Michelle mentioned and Ken also mentioned, you're looking at about, this job in the town hall is open is 24, 25 to 30 hours with all the reporting and everything that we have to do. So the town clerk tax collector, the salary is up 3%, that's recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The deputy town clerk, tax collector salary, like Michelle, I also flatlined. For those of you that spend much time in my office, you know that we have gone through a variety of deputies recently. The last, not speaking about the last one, but the 3 prior deputies prior to that have all, and are still all currently working full-time in another town. So, you know, part of me is very proud that in the short time I was able to train them and get them so far up to par. We are well represented in Sanford, in Gunkwit, and now in Kennebunkport. So they're doing very well, and I certainly wish these people the best, but after a while, you know, it gets a little frustrating, it gets draining. So when our last one left, I think early winter, Michelle and I sat down and kind of said, look, what can we do for each other? You know, winter's fairly slow. So we share this same one person a week that comes in and does, you know, basic filing. She's on a per diem, if you will, you know, when we decide time's up, time's up. She, you know, there's no contract, she's not hired per se or long-term, so she does filing for both of us, miscellaneous stuff, you know, little things. And then, for now, I have Michelle as my deputy when she's not working in Acton or Shapley on Thursday nights. She comes over and does town clerk, tax collector, and she's been working with me on Saturdays as well. So for now, that's working fine. I've got my filing girl on Tuesdays, Wednesday is fine, Thursday night I've got Michelle, and then Friday I'm fine, and Saturday. And like I said, for the most part, it's working fine, but we did have a conversation yesterday that we really need to sit down and think about what we're going to do. You know, April is a very busy month for me. I have taxes, I have the school election coming up, I've got the municipal election coming up, I've got a primary, I've got the gubernatorial, and then you add in all the non-residents, so my office is certainly, it's busy enough, but it's going to be picking up. So Michelle and I, hopefully over the next week or so, will really sit down and decide what we're going to do. But as far as the money that's in that deputy account, you know, when we decide to start over and look again, there's more than enough in there for us to work with. So I'm just going to kind of play it by ear and decide which way to go.
Can I make a suggestion?
You sure can.
Why don't you offer to charge and teach? If these people are...
They're getting a free education now.
You're right, they're getting a free education and moving on to something better.
Well, they're paying and they're doing their job while they're here. I mean, it would, you know, although I didn't do it as soon, but it certainly would be no different than me leaving Chapley and getting the years of experience under Joanne and then coming to Acton. I mean, you know, I would do the same thing those girls would do.
You can just drop it and move on.
I was answering your question. Jeez, all right, Social Security is what it is, Medicare is what it is based on the salaries you see above. Equipment, I've left the same, and that could be any equipment regarding town clerk, tax collector. Training, left the same, like Michelle, I have certain classes that I have to attend every year to keep up my certificates. Dues and memberships, I'm also a member of MTCCA, MMTCA, all of them that we can, because it's just more training and more support out there. Lien costs, Michelle talked about, generally it's $4,000 for me to file my tax liens in June. That's how much the postage cost, from the postage and filing them at the registries. And because as soon as I file them and apply that lien in Trio, our software system, it adds on the money. It adds on the certified cost, and it adds on the price for the lien file. So when Michelle and I got together and discussed it, I mean, the town is getting that revenue back. You can never pay your taxes off and not take that first. Our system takes interest and cost before it takes principal. So that's why we thought it was such a good idea to put it into municipal management, because they're going to offset each other, that revenue account that she's setting up. Tax billing, I went up $150. That's simply because of postage. I mean, I have no control over the price of postage rising, and as long as we continue to send out tax bills, unfortunately, that line is probably going to go up a little bit. My mileage and tolls went up $100 as well. That's to kind of offset where we think we are right now and going up a little bit based on training, trips to motor vehicles in Springvale, just the bank. I also have to go to the bank to make change for my own cash drawer. So that's the mileage. Any questions on the town clerk, tax collector portion?
I'm good.
Gotta make a degree up.
Okay, moving on before he gets too many ideas over here. He's touching me. is the elections. The elections is completely flatlined. You know, this is something that, we spent quite a bit of time talking about last year. Are we you with me? 1027?
First page.
Just follow along here, Tom.
Right here, I got, okay.
I did increase, starting this year, we're increasing the election worker's salary a little bit, and we did that based on the Maine municipal surveys that they gave us, so we increased that slightly, but there's still enough money based on last year's. So election worker's salary, that covers at least the primary, the November election. I plan on one town, one school, and then one extra, because you never know. And then the miscellaneous account, under elections, covers all of the supplies for elections, feeding the ballot clerks, you know, voter registration not voter registration cards, excuse me. Anything election-related, postings, advertisements, things like that. So that line is flat. Any questions? Okay. The last one here before we jump into municipal management is the registrar of voters. The registrar salary, again, per the Board of Selectmen, got a 3% increase, so the Social Security and Medicare is based on that. And for anybody that's not familiar, the registrar, this is the person that actually oversees the voter registration records. The state of Maine has a system called CVR, Central Voter Registration, and we're all 100% electronic now. So all of our cards get scanned in there, all of our reports, all of our petitions, everything goes through the state. And you are required to have a registrar present anytime the town hall is open. Some towns, believe it or not, have a separate person for this. You know, are paying them a ridiculous amount of money to sit there and hope that somebody comes in to do something. So this is one of those that, you know, as we're getting ready for the primary and everybody doesn't know what party they want to be in, or they want to switch, you know, picks up at certain times of the year, and there are other times there's lag in it, so. But that is that request. Any questions on the registrar? But I have all kinds of answers.
Why don't you give us the answers, and then we'll see if we have any questions about the answers.
Okay, that's
You
it.
can ignore my suggestion entirely.
And I'm going to hang out for the government account to cover mine and that, right?
So
Is that
we're
your
back to
wish?
the front.
Yes, but I'll let Ted lead the way, and I'll jump in when it's something pertaining to my office manager duties.
Okay, let's start with the office manager salary.
You're not starting at the top? Michelle, why don't you run it so we go in the right order?
It'll go quicker.
Yes, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, starting at 1021, this is the governing body, this is the Board of Selectmen, and their secretary. The selectmen have opted not to request an increase in their salary.
Ron.
However, they have opted an increase in their secretary's salary, and justifiably, Social Security and Medicare go up with that. Moving down to 1022 is the gym. The gym, we're increasing so that we're more in line with what's actually happening. It's not a huge increase, it's $350. I think that, well, I've seen what's gone in there for heat this year. I guess this year is probably kind of off the charts in years past. It will certainly be more than $3,300 this year, but looking at an average of the average year, I think $3,300 for heating fuel is good. Also, going into the gym, I don't know if any of you do go into the gym, but there are certain repairs that could be done that I think would help the heating fuel even more. If you look up in the ceiling, you can see out in certain places. I just think it needs to be tied up on the inside a little better. They did do some work on the outside around the foundation this year through the insurance claim.
The door?
The door certainly
But I
needs
think it actually locks
fixing.
now, maybe.
Yeah, we are working.
Without a piece of wire on
Well,
it?
we're working on the door, and not to interrupt Michelle, but one of the, American Security was here yesterday, working on the key card system, and the box that's over there, it looks like, and I haven't had the pleasure to share this with the board yet, but it looks like we're gonna have to probably end up replacing the door, because of the way, I mean, it was not the ideal door when they put that system in anyways, and it's just not, and it's falling apart. Ken's tried to fix it a couple of times, and I don't know.
You have to full force slam it to get it to shut and lock.
I think that people are using something to jimmy their way in,
People that don't have a card?
or they left it at home. I mean, there could be a variety of reasons. I mean, there's no alarm per se over there anymore. There's just the, we're able to track who goes in and out, but
How much income do we make from the gym this year?
I think we're right around $2,300 right now. Of course, the activity that you see in the gym, when you get people signing on, is when the snowbirds come back, and they sign back on. So that the biggest fluctuation in revenue you see is May and June, and we haven't hit that to really say how it's going to go this year.
Okay.
It seems to me like a lot more people are getting involved. When I go at night, there are people who, we have Bee go over and do the floors in the bathroom and whatever once a week. There are people who are doing that on a daily basis when they're there. They're cleaning up after themselves. They're sweeping and trying, if there's something that's broken, they're trying, ways to fix it. There's a communication board in there. If there's a problem, people write it down, and if there's somebody who has the skills to fix it, they have been doing so. I think we're getting into a good bunch of people that are joining the gym, that are understanding that it's a community and you have to work together to keep that investment going. There are, of course, a few that ruin it, that walk in with muddy boots in the middle of winter and walk across the whole entire floor, when it clearly says no outside street shoes in the gym.
the thing about the gym too is it's extremely affordable to join the gym, as it is now because of how the gym was originally built. Anybody related with fire and rescue, auxiliary are exempt. They're paying for the deposit for the card, so that's a big portion of them. Any town employee, or including the school, they're all paying, half price. So it works out to $5 a month for them and $10 a month for just anybody else. So, and what's happening is that, we prorate it whenever you sign up. So if you sign up in April, you're paying, everybody has to expire June 30th. That's one of the things that we set in the beginning, so that we didn't have expiration dates all over the place and constantly trying to track and turning people's cards off and on. So if you come in April, you're paying for April, May, and June. If you're an employee, you're paying $15 for 3 months. And most people will actually let it lapse in July, August, September, so we'll see another pickup, around the winter. But, if it continues to cost more than, if your revenues are still below what it's costing to run it, it's not what anybody's gonna wanna hear, but a slight increase in the fees, may be needed, especially if there's work inside that needs to be done.
Any thought of replacing that vacuum with a shop vac?
We actually have Bob on the lookout.
Good.
For a usable machine. I've mentioned it to him a couple times, because people throw things away all the time that work perfectly fine. That vacuum is not cutting it for that space.
No, and it's discouraging if you want to try to clean it, and this machine is totally useless, and a shop vac would minimal cost and heavy duty for the dirt that you get in there.
There have been some correspondence. Gail Bovair, who has really kind of overseen the gym and helped do the communications, has talked about some fundraisers. This particular board has been very, very firm with me that town money is not to be used on the gym. So we're not replacing it because we can't.
Right.
They just, they don't want town money spent on it.
Right.
And right now, the memberships aren't paying for it to run right now, so, but Gail Bovair, we've been emailing the last couple of weeks, and she's got some great ideas about fundraising, so.
Good.
Hopefully, she'll be able to get that started, and the board has supported her fundraising efforts, and we'll do what we can to advertise and so forth, so.
Good.
Maybe she can add that to the list.
Yeah, they've come to us several times about broken equipment and things like that, and we just told them we're not going to spend taxpayers' money on repairing the equipment. It was given to us through a grant, and you know, we have it and we'd like people to use it, but it has to support itself. We can't use tax money to do it, so if they need money, they have to raise it. Last time a machine broke down, I think the Lions Club donated $500 and got it fixed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, that's what the people in there have to do, is they have to get organized, raise money themselves for whatever they need in there. We're just paying the heating and the electric.
Okay, moving down to 1023, boards miscellaneous. This would be your Board of Assessment review meetings, something like that, where you would be required to have somebody taking minutes, which is typically Lorraine who would take the minutes, and she would have to be paid. I don't think we used that last year, but that's one thing that you can never predict.
Yeah, I think we have one this
So just to have a little bit of money there, and the next line down, 1024 for warrant and finance. Though the warrant and finance committee didn't put in a request, we left it at what it was last year. That was plenty of money last year and then some.
It's worth making comment about that. This is my 4th year on warrant and finance. The first year, I kind of inherited a structure whereby pretty much every time we got together, it was a meeting, and there was a secretary there taking minutes, and $50 a pop, you know, plus supplies, et cetera. For the last 3 years, including this year, we have essentially, you know, the budget has gone down significantly. It's the 266, and that really just covers the secretarial services, which would again be Lorraine for the most part, for the meetings in which we are rendering a vote for town meeting. So any meetings we have other than that, any workshops, you know, we're not on the town's nickel. You know, we do this as a volunteer service. None of us have stipends. And so this is essentially secretarial service for a limited number of meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then moving down to 1025, municipal management. First line is the office manager's salary, which sees a 3% increase. Unemployment contribution, we're a little over budgeted this year, so in speaking, of course, these numbers, it's hard to get a year in advance when we run on a fiscal year and our insurance company runs on a calendar year. But they assure me that $15,000 should do us well next year for any increases. Workman's comp, we've estimated to go up a little bit, just based on your average increase in ratings. We haven't had a lot of claims, but there's been some small ones, not in the municipal building, but in the fire department and in the school. Our ratings are all combined together. We're on the same policy with the school. This is just the town's portion of that bill. So that we get a bill for much more than that, and the school reimburses us for what we pay. And health insurance, which is 85% funded by the town for the employees who are regular, part-time, 21 hours plus employees. We have a healthcare reimbursement account to cover our very high deductible policy, whereas the town is reimbursing the employee for what they have to pay that $5,000 deductible out of pocket before insurance actually kicks in. The town is paying for that. It's worked out so that it's cheaper than any policy that offers good insurance. The price is about the same. We didn't fully budget this year for everybody using their deductible. Rates are going up a little bit next year, and this is fully funded for the people that are on the plan now, and in the case that they use their whole deductible for the year. We haven't, since we started the deductible, which I think is 3 years now, we have never used, the employees have never used the whole deductible allowed to them, but it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. and we should be prepared for when it does happen.
The 90,000 is what we were at 3 years ago when we went to this
Right.
plan, is what we were budgeting for
This-
3 years ago, and now with the increases in insurance, we're back to the 90,000.
Looking ahead at hiring an employee in the town clerk's office who would probably work more than 21 hours a week, this does not include another person. So this would not include a family plan, a single plan, a single plus one plan for an additional employee. So if we want to get it up there so that it would be fully funded if that employee needed insurance, we could easily add an extra 30,000 on top of that. Worst case.
So, looks like we're not hiring anybody. Let's keep plugging along, Michelle.
Social Security and Medicare, they increase, the salaries increase. The postage meter and rental, we bumped that up a little bit due to the postage increase. Cleaning supplies, flatlined. Heating fuels, flatlined. We've had enough this year. Fortunately, we plan for those types of things that happen when you have 6 months of cold weather. Training, that's flatlined. Dues and membership has increased a little bit just because our membership rates with MMA have increased a little bit for this coming year. Computer repair and maintenance, Jennifer could probably speak more to that. What, did you decrease?
Yeah, we decreased, I mean, that's one of those lines that, you know, you just never know what exactly is gonna happen and what's gonna be needed. Our computers are in pretty good shape. We generally have been trying to replace one a year. We've got, I think, 2 left that are still running on the old system. But we've moved those computers to the offices that aren't being used quite as much as far as the technology piece of it.
I mean, looking at us.
So I think that we're okay. I mean, as far as the backups and the servers and everything that the key employees are using is pretty good. This also includes like when we need to have our IT man come in and do some things, but generally, you know, I'm comfortable lowering that. I don't think we've spent the full amount in a few years, but again, we don't want to, you know, I don't want to lower it too much and have something happen.
Legal expenses, we've left flatline. We went over last year. This year, we've got money to play with. It's just one of those things, you never know when you're gonna need them.
Yeah, and we have just, that's actually what I was stuffing my envelopes over there. The board approved an RFP on Thursday night. We're going out to bid for legal services. I think, if I have those all mailed by the end of the day, we'll be accepting packages and fees, or schedules of fees through the mid-April, and they can start taking a look at them.
We didn't have a contract, but the attorneys called and said they were raising their fees by $25 an hour, so we thought it was a good time to go out and check and see if we can't do better. So email used to cost $50, now it'll cost us about $75, so we figured we'd go out and look for somebody else, or see if anybody else could do it.
Well, at least see if it's comparable.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
What are we bidding here? Are we bidding an hourly rate or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Audit expenses, we're leaving that flatlined. We have a contract with the auditors. The contract is for $8,000. There's $1,000 there in case something happens. I decide to leave the town of Acton, and the selectmen want to have somebody come in and make sure I'm not leaving with a bunch of money. Little things here and there where we might need the auditor's perspective on it. Typically, they've been good about answering questions via email or on the phone, sometimes even coming down and not charging us, which has been nice. But, I mean, that little extra buffer for those services that we might need is always good to have.
You know, and just to piggyback on that real quick, because Michelle won't pat her own back, I mean, one of the reasons that they do that so much, you know, take those quick phone calls and respond to those quick emails, is because the efficiency of how the offices are running. I mean, last year, when the auditors came down and audited, you know, our accounts, every one of our tax accounts, or Herline accounts, every account, I mean, they balanced to the penny the first time. And, and that says a lot, every one of her accounts, my state account. So I think that because they're having to put less and less into that actual audit, because it goes so smoothly when they come down for those 3 days, they give us some slack the rest of the time of year. So Michelle has certainly had a big part of why that happens like that.
Absolutely.
Drug testing, this is for our CDL drivers. Jennifer runs that program.
The drug testing is, it's one of those that I have to, because we're in a pool, we have to always plan for the most. We know how many people they can pull and how often they can pull them without getting into too many details. So basically, I take that number and multiply it times the current fee to have, whether it's drug or alcohol or both, and we plan accordingly. Another one of these lines that we probably will never spend all of it on, but, if next year's our lucky year that we get somebody picked every other day, then we need to be able to pay those bills.
Deed transfers, these are, when you buy a house in Acton, the deeds have to come to the town of Acton, and we pay for those things, those services. This is, it's typically a straightforward, $750, we probably won't use that. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when people were buying left and right, and there was lots of transactions going on, a higher number would have been good, but $750 has worked well for the last 4 years, so. The next line is, both Jennifer and I referred to this earlier, moving our lien filing and discharge costs into one pot with an increase of $100. I know that there was a little over budget, because you're preparing for the worst, and it's taking the over budget into account with the increase of filing fees, $6,600. It's only $100 more than what we had before. So it looks like a good number.
And if one of the things that's important on this line too is everything is all about timing. When the Board of Selectmen commit taxes, the day they commit taxes in August, September, that governs when Michelle and I can do or have to do the rest of our work. So if you're looking at something that shows that we only spent half of it last year, it may be because, when we file 30-day notices, they have to be within 180 days from the date the taxes were committed. And then you have a 10-day window to get them to the registry. So it usually falls, the 30-day notices fall in May, and then the liens actually get filed in June. But depending on if they committed late or committed early, that might get us into a new fiscal year, depending on when that 30-day period ends, because it's generally May or June. So if, I know there's last couple of years, it looks like there's money left over, but it's because we actually paid it out of the current fiscal year because of the timeline, so.
Saying the selectmen were late.
I didn't say the selectmen were late. That's not what I said. I said late or early.
Alarm service, maintenance, hasn't changed for the upcoming year.
Yep, this covers the town hall and the cable.
Is that contract up this year?
The contract is up end of the year, and I understand you guys want to go out and take a look
Yeah.
at some other options.
Right.
The contract deputy there is an increase this year. In the contract, there is an allowance during collective bargaining with the county that we absorb those increases. We share those increases. So if the cost of health insurance for our deputy goes up, we share those increases. If his other benefits, if he received more benefits than he had before, if those go up, we absorb those. So,
We share with Shapley, or we share with the county, or both?
share with Shapley.
So basically, the two towns are still shouldering the
Yeah.
full expense of
Exactly.
that, okay, and then the county is the ones who will negotiate what the actual salary is, and that, we have nothing to do with that.
Exactly. And I think that was kind of a shocker this year when we saw the increase so quickly. I think it went up $600 or $700 this year, so we're actually under budgeted this year, this current year, because we don't get the numbers until January.
Can I ask a question, Michelle, with respect to that negotiation with the deputy? Is that a collectively negotiated contract with all the deputies?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a union.
It's
Yeah.
the, the union that the deputies belong to negotiates with the county
So they're all getting the
commissioners.
same.
Like the teachers do with the school board.
So that, we're not negotiating, or they're not negotiating for
On behalf of us, no.
On behalf of us, thank you.
Is that 1996, is that our share, or is that, and Shapley's paying that amount too?
Well, this is an estimate for next year.
Oh, okay.
They don't have the numbers together right now.
Okay.
And so we saw a $700 or $800 increase this year.
And
Chances are we'll see it
presumably,
next year.
Shapley
And
would be
then
looking at that same number, because we are sharing all of that.
Exactly.
Although their estimates of what they're gonna spend next year may be different from yours. I mean, you don't coordinate that, I presume.
Actually, no, I do.
That's right, they're the same person.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at for next year as well, is 22. Town hall electricity, flatline, telephone, flatline, building maintenance and repair, we've kept that at $25,000, and we continue, if there's any money left over at the end of the year, to roll that over into its own reserve account for a project that might be in process that hasn't finished, or something that we know is going to happen. We've pretty much brought that down to zero this year, that little reserve that we had left over from last year.
Because of the well?
We had some unexpected expenses this year with the well. We are looking, we'll talk about this later on down the line when we get towards a warrant, but we are looking at, besides appropriating $40,000 into a capital improvement fund, possibly appropriating some of that capital improvement fund onto another project for the town hall. This current year, we have the handicap accessible ramp that's going to be built out here. We've already awarded that contract. That's supposed to be finished, that's supposed to be done this spring. That was $15,000 that we're using this year. And we just need to tie up some numbers for possibly finishing off the roof next year before we bring it to the warrant. But, so those, those things are out there. The maintenance rollover helped offset that. We're not gonna have any rollover this year, but possibly next year we will. It's an old building and it needs a lot of work, as most of our buildings in town do. So, and this, the capital improvement fund that we put into is not specifically for town hall. The building maintenance fund that we roll over is specifically for town hall. So there's two different funds that we could pull from for this building. For the other buildings, there's only one fund that we can pull from. And then moving along to, and just to bring this up again, Tom and I spoke of this earlier, and I know I've brought it up the past couple of years, is that we really need to have a planning committee. Not a planning board, we need a planning committee to plan ahead for these different things on all the buildings and the vehicles, and we need to get a budget onto what is really a good amount to put in a capital fund.
Capital Planning Committee.
The buildings are falling apart fast. I mean, we see it every day. We have a salt shed that needs to be replaced, you know, sometime in the future. It's needed to be replaced for a while. The Lincoln Schoolhouse is falling apart. This building in certain spots are falling apart. You know, there are certainly, and then.
Just looking up here.
And the library.
In the library.
This portion of this building and the library.
Exactly.
Are both at risk.
And the floor in my office, if you
Yes.
walk anywhere, where the area that you wait on the customers, I'm telling you, that whole floor is gonna come through. It's,
Why, what's?
I don't know, let's go stand on it.
Go dance on it for a little while. It's, the subflooring in there needs to definitely be replaced, but.
Well, the carpet obviously needs to be
There's a
replaced
carpet,
too.
Yeah, I mean, there's
that's
a lot
gross.
of projects that we need to plan ahead for, and, I mean, we talk about it every year at this time, and it just hasn't moved forward, and we really need to find a venue for it to come into light, to happen.
Across the street. Notice what they're doing to that.
But we'll move along.
So, yeah.
Where was I?
Software rental?
Yeah, but that's...
Software rental, that's our main operating system, Trio. We use it in every office in this town hall.
Yeah, but they didn't want to do that.
That's a
They wanted to
contracted
fix up the
rate.
existing one.
And we just pay that lease every year for the,
That's why I
for
feel
the
about that, Jim.
software. And
Huh?
they upgrade it as
That's
we
how I feel
need,
about that Jim.
as laws change with motor vehicle,
Juice
different
like we
requirements,
did.
they update it, we never have to worry about that.
I like it.
Tax rate, income tax withholdings, these things happen all together, they make our life so much
Granted.
easier, and make your experience coming into town hall a lot quicker than, having to sit down and, get out the typewriter and the calculator, and so we really appreciate having that software. Equipment maintenance and repair is kind of, it's really not labeled correctly. What this is our Xerox machines. It's the contract that we have with them for the maintenance and the contract that we have with them for the actual lease of the machine. And this, we have one copier that's up for,
Yeah, the copier downstairs will be up this year, the Xerox. And then we have the Budget Technology, the upstairs one, that's, we've still got a couple of years on, we just signed on that one, so,
We're gonna go to the
Yes.
company from upstairs, downstairs?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Counting down the days to get rid of Xerox.
so we just have to look at our rates and make sure we stay within that budgeted amount, which I don't think is a problem.
No, it won't be a problem. Budget
At all.
Technology, yeah,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of trouble with the Xerox company, so.
I use them,
You do?
yeah, for some of my stuff.
Liability insurance, which is our property and casualty, covers just about anything that may happen to anyone or anything in the town,
Except in the salt shed.
except, for the buildings that have been deemed uninsurable.
No, you still have the liability at the salt shed, we just
Yeah.
don't have the
We don't have the property.
property, yeah.
There's an increase in this year. There's probably a few reasons for that increase. We've had a few claims this year. And we also took on a very expensive fire truck this year onto our policy that needs to be insured, so we want to make sure all those things are protected that we can. That's the increase there. Printing, advertising, and town reports, this is basically any town-wide posting that you see in the newspaper that's not specifically related to election or to planning board. This is your closure of the building, various different bids and whatnot. Advertising gets paid out of that, as well as the printing of the town report. Equipment, computer hardware, I don't believe we've used this at all this year, but it's there in case something goes wrong. Getting into debt service here, the reval loan, we've only got a few months, 4 months, I think, to pay on it this year. And so we have a decrease there. We've kind of made up for that in other places, but we have a decrease in that debt service. We have also the window loan and the fire truck loan. Obviously, the payments are staying the same, so the budget's staying the same. Tax abatements, looks like a good number. We went a little over this year, but we had some not so normal
Situations.
this year. So we felt that we could keep that right at $5,000. Write-offs, $200. Write-offs, Jennifer might be able to explain what we use the write-offs for.
Write-offs are generally for, most tax payments end in an odd number. And for whatever reason, not most, 85% of people, jip the penny on both payments. So after, so when May comes and I'm getting ready to run my 30-day notices, I have probably $200 worth of accounts that are all a penny, 10 cents, 5 cents. When taxes are due, when we accept postmark on April 15th, so let's say now it's April 21st, that the check comes in the mail. Well, there's 11 cents interest. I'm supposed to go by the postmark. So at the end, I'm ready to send 30-day notices. I can't send certified letters for, less than, I try to do it less than $5. So that's where the write-offs come from. So please look at your bills and put the right penny on there. Because believe it or not, it's a lot of work to go in and write off that penny on every single account. The auditor won't let me just bring in a handful of pennies and just start lying. He frowns upon that for some reason. Quicker. So that's my write-off account.
The next line is the mileage for the office manager position.
Which nobody questioned. I had a very nice list of all of its duties. I thought with some of the new Warren and Finance Committee members, they might like to know, but I'll just set that aside.
I'll take a copy of that. if
You will?
Can I have it?
You may have it.
Thank you.
The mileage, is anything related to the errands that the board sends me on that don't pertain to, you know, like, for example, I'm going, next week to get some ribbon cutting for the salt and sand presentation and some certificate paper to make the kids all up nice certificates, so a trip to Walmart will be on their mileage account.
You had to double it this year, Jen?
Yes, they send me around a lot.
She'll actually be over budget by the end of this fiscal year, so we thought we'd put a realistic number in there. Miscellaneous expenses, this is typically that, it's miscellaneous expenses, it's,
Abatement forms I just paid out of that.
yeah, forms, something that we didn't budget for in a specific department, but we've agreed as a staff with the selectmen, there's something that we need, like the new map is
Oh,
going to come out of
yes,
this.
yes. Yes, Ted, the new map. We're very excited.
Map of Acton.
The maps that...
That's where that's coming from?
Yes, you agreed to that. You know, the maps in Lorraine's, the map in Lorraine's office, if anybody's seen it, it's, 11 by 17. In the bottom lower right-hand corner, it was last updated in 1995. It wasn't something that got negotiated into the contract each year with Cartographics. So I reached out to them to say, now that we've got these nice maps that are redone, all up to date, we've plotted every house, we have E911 for firefighters, I mean, we spent a lot of time on the maps this year. How much would it cost to get that map, that street map updated? And then they gave us a very reasonable price from 1995 to 2014 to update it for $750, a flat price, and they've agreed to put that into our contract each year at no additional cost. So we should see those new street maps soon.
If you were UPS drivers.
You would appreciate that.
Wandering around.
For the 1995
Going
sign.
where?
So, and we're actually going to print them, they did them in color, because of the water, so we're actually gonna print them, in color through Staples. I've gotten a really good price on them, and we'll turn around and probably charge $1 for the maps, so the revenue will offset, the $750 that Ted allowed us to spend.
You're gonna keep rubbing
So,
that in, aren't you?
Willingly.
Moving on to page 2, account 10213 is assessing.
It had never been updated.
May I make one point on this department we just finished?
Yep.
Same thing as the tax man.
In a very real sense, this is rather picayune, but it does affect last year's gross budget, so. The sixth line down, the Medicare tax share is listed at a 185 for last year, and it was actually, for my records anyway, it was 182, which would affect the gross budget
Okay,
figure for last year.
okay. Also to mention, the office manager salary, $2,000 of that salary is offset with APAT revenues currently, because of work related to the cable channel that the office manager is doing, outside of what Michael does. So $2,000 of that $12,000 salary is not coming from taxation, it's coming from the revenue that we've earned.
I know that's true of the current year, so it's same for the next one, correct?
Yes.
So carrying
And
forward.
it will probably change the year after if we change the whole rollover reserve. If we just put it into the undesignated fund, then that will change as well.
Thank you.
Assessing, these are contracts, contracted software would include, Jennifer could probably list them off better than I could.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're at.
Page 2.
Assessment.
I don't think I have the same books that, may I peek on?
Sure.
We have not been notified of any
Where are we?
increases this year.
Where are you, Michelle?
10213.
213.
The subcontracted is our actual assessors.
Oh, okay, yep.
And the contracted software would be the different programs.
Right, so the assessment subcontractors, that's the actual yearly price we pay for O'Donnell's that comes down and does all of the assessing work. They also, come down once a month, but they do a majority of it from their office. The contracted software is, so you've got the cardiographics. If you go onto the town's website, I have to say that we're one of the best towns around as far as our assessment information that we have online, if you've had a chance to look at it. The cardiographics that we have, the O'Donnell's that we have, the maps online, all of that figures into the software price. And there's also a couple of interfaces dumped in there so that every year after the April 1st date comes and goes, we can make sure that each software talks to the other one. We have to take the updated numbers from O'Donnell's and make sure they get interfaced with Trio so that when we eventually commit our taxes, those numbers they match, and then we turn around and take those numbers and put them back into cardiographic. So it's a process for the first couple of weeks, but that's basically what that figure covers.
And then skipping down on the same page, we've already spoken of code enforcement. Right underneath that is health and welfare. We have a health officer, who the town is required to have one.
Can I ask who that is?
Vicki Erickson is our health officer, and she's a nurse as well.
Are you gonna tell them what's coming forward?
Not till next year.
Coming forward, the health officer over in Shapley has attended a few meetings this year and found out that the state is working hard at enforcing health hazards in the community. Health hazards being an abundance of unregistered, broken down vehicles that might be in someone's yard leaking into the soil. It might be piles of trash in their backyard. There hasn't been a timeline issued yet as to when they're going to start enforcing that, but the state is going to work with not only the health officer, but the code enforcement officer as well. It's gonna be a combination of expense to the town. To go out and to address each property specifically, to issue them warnings to get certain things taken care of, and if they don't get it taken care of, the state would then consider taking it by eminent domain, fixing it, whatever problem was there that they saw as a health hazard, and then charging that cost to the homeowner. So they're really looking beyond just the junkyards now. They're looking at junked yards. So I mean, our code, I think, says we can't have more than 1 or 2 unregistered vehicles. Is it 3?
I think it's 3, yeah.
So, we know that's not the case. We see them, some of us even have them in our backyard, they're going to start enforcing that.
How about old sailboats?
The last legislation update that I got said that they were hopeful to have something passed early summer, so, it's gonna be one of those things that if we have to enforce it, that's gonna increase Ken. I mean, Ken talked about his 1 to 5, right now, those unregistered cars are 5s. But when that legislation comes through and puts it on the town, those numbers are gonna get bumped up, so you're gonna see work increase there and our health officer.
$100 health
Officer,
I mean,
yeah, nobody's gonna
currently
do it for that price.
currently, I don't think we've really,
We used her twice since I've worked in Acton, so,
Yeah.
and those were houses, just to condemn them, we needed her okay.
right. But the person holding that office would definitely have to be involved.
Training, and I mean, that line will triple.
Yeah. So looking ahead, we can see that number change significantly. General assistance, we left it flatlined. The numbers look good this year. We have used a lot of general assistance this year, and it's not for food. I mean,
Oil.
maybe 2 checks have gone to Hannaford, the rest of it's all gone to oil. We actually even did buy some firewood this year. We were the Lions Club and a few other local
Emery Mills.
Businesses and residents have donated money to a fuel fund that is for people that may not qualify for general assistance, but still need to have heat in their house. And I think we had $800 come in this year, and I've got just over 180 left. So that the heat was hard this year on everybody.
It is, and that account is, I mean, Lorraine deals with the general assistance, and she maintains that $10,000 with the approval of the selectmen, but that other account that Michelle has set up, her and I have kind of taken over and overseen, because we are using it for people that are in situations out of their control that just don't qualify for general assistance. So it's been very helpful. I mean, you have some very gracious people in Acton that have been in situations out of their control, and, you know.
And who haven't specifically come in and asked for a hand.
Right, we've
But
reached
come
out
in
to some
in
of them.
Conversation, we hear, you know, they're in dire straits. I can't get heat this week, you know, we're gonna turn the oven on. Well, you're not gonna turn the oven on when we have something available for you. And, so that, I mean, it's been great. Emery Mills Oil, the Lions Club has made a couple of donations.
Couple of cash donations.
And then a couple of residents. It's been great. I think we need to start working on it for next year.
Yeah, because it goes to, you know, and it's unfortunate, and you have this with any program, whether it be the town's general assistance or the state, there are people that, you know, count on that general assistance to get them through the winter. I mean, if you have kids in the house and you have this and you meet these requirements, I mean, the town could fill someone's tank 3 or 4 times in the winter because they meet the general assistance requirements. So that's why this other account, I think, means so much to Michelle and I, because it's, you know, it's just, not that the first person doesn't need it, but when you're filling the same person for the 4th or 5th time in the winter and nothing's changed there, and then you see a full family with mom and dad working, I mean, it's struggles, you know, we've all been there, you know. It's nice, so if we can, you know, we're hoping to work on that account and get donations into that, and, you know, reach out to people that, I mean, these people you would never know, and it could be your neighbor, you know, you would never know who these people are, but it's been, certainly a blessing to be able to help them in this way, so.
And we've gone.
Write us a check, Bill, start off our account.
How much? He does $100 bills. We were at $25,000 in the general assistance 3 years ago or 2 years ago? 3 years.
2 years.
Yeah. We had to bring it up to that because that's what we were spending. And we changed the hours of general assistance to Thursday nights only, and we added work fare.
Unless it's an emergency.
Unless it's
Just keep that
emergency,
open.
exactly. And we added work fare. For those that are capable of working, that don't have a disability and prove a disability, when we give them money either for electric bill or food or whatever, they have to work that off at $10 an hour at the transfer station. If they don't work it off, then they don't get any more money until they do work it off. So it's changed the amount of money that we're putting out. So the people that are coming in now that we're using this $10,000 on are really people that need it and are not able to work at the transfer station or work anyplace really. So it's made a big difference in the amount that we're spending and to who the money's going to, so it's working out really well.
Okay, moving along, animal control, streetlights. Streetlights are what they are, $1,700.
Good streetlight.
$1,700 for how many years?
Bill Watts.
Yeah, I remember.
We all remember.
We haven't had a good streetlight fight at.
Animal control before we hear the stories, let's go.
Why don't we take that off the budget this year and see what happens?
Probably should.
Animal
Somebody will
control,
notice.
the salary notice is significantly more than 3%. The reason for this being is that the animal control officer is also the animal control officer in Shapley. This is $4,850 is the salary that the Board of Selectmen have set for the animal control officer in Shapley. And he approached us saying, it only seems fair with a similar population, dog population, pet population, people population, that the numbers are the same between one town and the other. And which makes sense. I mean, for for what he's expected to do, he's expected to be on call 7 days a week.
Right.
It certainly didn't seem like fighting about.
So if we divide that by 365 days, assuming he did something animal control related, you're looking at about $13 a day. And Frank, you know, God love him, he is getting up there in age. He still is doing a good job for what, you know, the laws and regulations have changed a lot as far as what animals he's allowed to control. You know, my office hears a lot of complaints that, you know, that Frank wouldn't address this, you know, this deer or this. He's only allowed, you know, the guidelines are, he's allowed to do dogs, cats. I mean, we had an issue with some carcasses in a freezer up the road, and the carcasses had to be identified. We had to bring the wardens in, the animal control in. My poor road commissioner, Scott, I still owe him for helping out with this. They had to determine what the carcass was before the right authority could deal with it. You know, so when he doesn't pick up the buck on the side of the road, it's because he's not allowed to. But when it comes to dogs and cats and stuff, I mean, Frank is a, you know, good guy, works hard in both towns, and he will, you know, may not have the best bedside manner, but, but, you know, do any of us really?
I just gotta say, he left me a message on my answer machine, and I had to listen to it. I'm like, he did not just say that.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, he takes his job very seriously, and this time of year, we're looking for unlicensed dogs. You know, dog licenses we're doing December. January, you get the whole month as free, you know, free. February, you look at a fee. Well, when March comes, they become Frank's dogs. So, he is working hard on those, and, you know, he does pick up dogs and take them to the shelter at all hours. I mean, for whatever reason, Frank feels compelled every time he picks up a dog to call my house phone, whether it's in Acton or Chapley. And, you know, as much as I appreciate that, a lot of times we've been able to find the owner. But I get my midnight calls from Frank on the way down to Kennebunk to say if I know anybody that has a brown dog.
He's not doing ants, I take it.
No.
He does cows, right?
He does do cows, if they're domesticated, and we've had a conversation, I'll tell you later off camera, about Frank determining if a cow is domesticated or not, because if it's not, it goes into the wardens, so.
And he does keep up, he goes to training at least
There
once
are
a year.
no wild
He works
cows.
with everything that, you know, that changes in the law.
Yeah,
so.
and he's actually gone, he's good about calling me and telling me when he's gonna be gone to training or when he's not, because, you know, like the rest of us, he has to have a life, and he when he goes away for a couple of days, at a time, he'll call both Joanne and myself and, you know, say, I'm going so-and-so, and then we'll notify the sheriff's department at least, so that they have a, you know, they know that they'll be on the call for the dogs and cats, so.
Okay, so let's do this over.
The animal welfare kennel contract, this is based on, they can't really give us a defined number, it's based on the animals.
How many,
The
right.
animal population.
We don't need.
I thought maybe a little bit of a leeway we should have there. We're right about at 3,000, I think, this year, so just bump it up a little bit. Mileage and tolls, I mean, this is his request, $650, that's down $50 from last year. Then moving along to communications, the dispatch services, this is Sanford Regional, I can't remember what the exact name of what they're calling the City of Sanford Dispatch. That's a 3% increase every year per contract. The EMA repeater and the 14-town lease maintenance agreement, we have not been notified of any increases there, other than this Blueberry Tower thing, which we've put worst case scenario, if we, you know, if we keep the tower at Blueberry Hill, $4,800 is what it's gonna cost. Because everybody sets their budget and bills go out, and we put that number in there in case that we couldn't tie something down in time for the 14 town to absorb it altogether. This was, you know, first year, maybe the town of Acton would have to pay $4,800 and then get recouped for it later on. So that number is still in limbo, so to speak. Emergency Management, our EMA director is Bill Catanzi.
Brought that up because.
And this basically covers him having to go to any meetings
Officer to show up because they had.
at York County or statewide. He does the paperwork, he helps with the paperwork, collecting the paperwork for FEMA-related activities when we have a declared event. And if we had a huge disaster in town, Bill would be our first-hand man. Moving along. Just trying to get the ones that we haven't hit. Page 4, 1061, Conservation. Conservation Committee has once again requested $250. Typically, what they spend that money on would be not, they have a membership fee to a historical organization that they pay every year. Sometimes they do poster contests down at the school, or general education. That's typically what that money's been spent on. 1075 Forestry, our town forester stipend is $500, which it's been like that forever. County tax, we're back down to a 12-month budget this year rather than an 18-month budget that we got hit with last year. Those numbers, of course, are not final. I spoke with the finance officer over at county, and she said that they probably won't have a definitive number until the end of April, early May. But based on the budget, she said $300,000 would be a good number to block in there for budgeting purposes.
So they think it'll be less than 2 years, or last year? Because last year was 314
Yes.
on the budget.
They just elected their budget committee Wednesday night, so they'll probably get started on it now. That's why they don't know yet.
The cemeteries, the veterans' graves, these are the flags that typically the 4-H group puts out on the veterans' graves. It's, something that is a mandate, correct?
Yes.
Let's get down to donations. The selectmen have decided not to put forward any increases from the donation agencies. So if they requested $2,000 last year, they are certainly welcome to request $2,000 this year, because that's what we will be suggesting. If they request $2,100, it will still be put in as $2,000. So every one of them is flatlined, other than the 4-H clubs, which we took out, because to our knowledge, we don't have a current active 4-H group happening in the town of Acton. And Woodford's requested a decrease based on the townspeople that use their services.
And we didn't add any new ones, correct?
We did not add any new ones. You will see the warrant article change because we separated out last year the new one, Balch Lake Improvement, into its own article. This year, because we approved it last year, will get bumped up into the regular donation article. Typically, that's what we do. When we get a new request, we put them in their own separate article.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm curious why the Acton Library is in here rather than a separate.
Because they refuse to become a town department. I've talked to them last year, I talked to them again this year. They want to remain as a nonprofit and not be a town department, so we have to do it this way. That's the only way we can give money. I've talked to them, I said, look, if you become a town department like the rec department, and we give you, what is it, 16,000? How much are we giving them? 18,000? You don't have to pay for liability insurance, you don't have to pay for an accountant, you don't have to pay for workers' comp, and all those things they're taking out of that 18,000 that they wouldn't have to. They would get, 18,000 to spend on books and whatever. And they have their own, they don't want to be part of the town.
Is there a reason, though? Are they giving a reason?
Well, what they're saying is, in the past, there's been boards that didn't really think the library should be funded or the town should do anything with the library. So their budgets were constantly cut and, they had to go out on their own and raise the difference. The budget, I think when I came in was $12,000.
There is a history of this, and I had discussions with the Library Association. There was an effort in either 2002 or 2003, part of the library board actually wanted to merge with the town and incorporate it. And so I went to a couple of their meetings and I said, that's fine, but here's the consequences of doing that. This is where you are now, this is what you moved to. And that board at that point in time, after that discussion, decided to remain private. Now, I don't know that there's been any change in that.
There's been some murmuring recently about maybe approaching the town again.
I think the biggest fear of the current Board of Trustees, is that what they are over there? That they don't know what they're gonna get in the back office in Town Hall, in the Selectman's office. So they've been met with apprehension in previous years from different boards, that they might not be funded, or they might even be cut, that they're not a necessary department of the town. And so I think that's what I've gotten out of conversations, and I think that's what Ted got out of a conversation that he had a week or so ago. They don't want to be cut, right now, they can stay alive.
Back then.
Right, they can stay alive right now, even though we as a town are, more than half funding them, probably 70% of their funds comes from us. But they have the direction to keep open.
But as a negotiating ploy with them, if their concern is what the selectmen would do as opposed to the town meeting, a negotiation may proceed along the course of ensuring that it's always a separate article, the funding of the library. In other words, go to them and say, we promise to carry this as a separate article, the town meeting, as opposed to managing it within the selectmen's office.
The problem is, though, is like what happened before, where it went down to $12,000, is even if they were in a separate article, and that board at that time brought them from $18,000 down to $12,000, you can't increase it on the town floor, so there's nothing the town could do.
You can, you just don't have to put the sum in the article. That's the only way that's the way to address that issue. You can write the article asking to see what sum the town will do.
Right, but what I'm saying is, they're worried about a board that does not want to fund the library, which has happened, putting in a dollar amount, saying, like it was 18,000, they've dropped them down to 12,000 in 1 year. The town floor can't do anything except for make it even lower if they wanted to, but they can't put it back to the 18,000.
What I'm suggesting is that in a discussion with the library, you propose to them that the selectmen will hereinafter place the article, leaving it to see what sum the town will raise, as opposed to...
But we can't do that for future boards, is what I'm saying.
You can't constrain a future...
Actually, you can, but yes, you have to do it by ordinance, that's all.
Yeah, it would have to be an ordinance, yes.
Well, I have another question.
Yeah.
Just so I don't blow it like with the school thing, asking questions.
The timing is perfect, Joe.
Thank you. Looking at some of these things, I am very much concerned that we are putting in amounts to two things that I don't think should be here because of the following reasons. One of the Biddeford Free Clinic. From what they're offering, we now have closer the Nasson federally funded clinic to which any one of our people can go to.
At Nassau College?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of publicity about it, like in the
It's absolutely
Reporter
fantastic.
and-
You have a day and a half to get an appointment. They will fit you in. You can go there and get Nordex, your blood test in the mornings from 8 to 12, no waiting, and it costs your insurance less than going to the hospital.
dental services.
Dental services.
Wow.
Mental health services, all of this is being paid for with your federal dollars. And so I can't see why we're going to, not that I'm nitpicking with my $200, $300, $400 bits, but You know, here
Well,
we're
it matters
giving,
more, because we're only a, what, 1.5 million budget, like ag.
I'm sorry, you know, I have a real hang-up with this, that we should, how, can we eliminate some of these things,
We can.
okay?
This hasn't gone to a warrant article yet, so we
We
can.
have a couple of things that here, looking through this, you know, if they're not in our town, they're not serving in our town, why are we giving money to them when we have something close by that's, or they're duplicate services? Many years ago, and it was a lot of years ago when I was on warrant finance, that we, you know, at one point, I had, gave a scenario, I could have applied for 11 different handouts from all these services, you know, and we've tried very hard to combine them so that they aren't duplicates. For full disclosure, I am on the board of CAP, but we couldn't, our town probably couldn't make it if we had to give out the general assistance to what that agency alone gives to our town. So I really think that we ought to look at some of these. If they're not serving meals, like Agency on Aging, it says here they enjoyed nutritious meals, but it wasn't here. There are people that go to every single site where they can get a meal for $4. You know, here we have our wonderful church group giving the meals. So why are we donating that for that cause?
Which one is that?
Agency on
Agency on
Aging.
Aging.
Yeah, I've heard Lorraine speak many times about that same thing. I guess they used to do lunches here, but they haven't for
They
many,
used
many
to,
years.
and the meals became absolutely horrible. I went every Wednesday to the one in Lebanon, just to take things there.
That was a result of privatization.
Yeah, well,
They used to prepare the meals themselves, and then they farmed it out to...
we can jump right in here with the Woodfords.
So that's $1,000 for
Kids
the,
free, child
Made
abuse
one trip to the
counselor.
school, and that was it.
One trip to the school, come on, that's a lot of money. Caring Unlimited is wonderful, but we have the sexual response agency that Caring Unlimited could handle that. People go there, those are duplicates.
Caring Unlimited, and what's the other one?
The SR Agent, Sexual Response Agency.
Oh,
Did each one of these organizations present something to the board telling you how many people, before you start cutting?
Yeah.
I mean, they telling you how many?
they're in their budget books.
Oh, and it says how many they did?
Well, the one on the Council on Aging says 23 people, but then somebody wrote next to it, not in Acton.
We don't have the meals in
That's who?
Acton, so.
Lorraine.
So we should verify that?
And over here, she says no. The congregate meal program, she's got a no and a big star.
We don't have a congregate meal here. The church does it.
Well, then we certainly need to, call some of these companies and call them on it.
Question whether the other numbers that are on that same page are actually accurate. If in fact we're purporting to have 23 meals served, or 23 people served in Acton, and that's not, demonstrably not correct, what about the other numbers that are on the same page? Are they all pulled from 4 years ago, or, you know?
So let's call and ask them, call them on it.
Southern Maine Parent Awareness, I mean, it doesn't say anything.
Well, and do keep in mind that as far as I know, they will not be presenting in person this year. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
So, you know, what you see in front of you is pretty much what we have unless we inquire further.
If you as a board choose to want to have them, we can invite them to your warrant and finance meeting when you do your recommendations, if that's what you'd like. We can have them come in. We chose not to meet with them because it's the same charities that we've met with for the last, several years.
I'm thinking that
nobody knew, and
a few directed questions to a few directed agencies would probably serve the
Eliminate some of
purpose.
them.
Serve the purpose, if in fact the
Now, we
committee
don't
has.
take any of this money from a couple of these things. Are we allowed to put it into something like the Acton Food Pantry and increase the budget where you know it's going to be used by town people?
Well, this is what has been requested.
Right, that's what was requested, but are we allowed to donate?
Recommendations can be
more?
whatever we want,
Right.
and Acton Food Pantry, as far as I know, is not even on there.
It has to be-
Last line.
It has to be in the context of an article that the selectmen would include in the warrant. In other words, each selectman could choose to insert an article to see what sum the town would donate to the Acton Food Pantry, and then we would respond to that. That's the way, but we can't do it on the floor of the town.
Oh, excuse me, it is there. It's
Yeah.
$3,000, excuse me, $2,500 last year.
But the whole
And this is
total
only the second
donations
year.
is one article.
Right.
I
And
understand
one
that. It
amount.
doesn't
right?
have to be, but that's the way it is right now.
So
Just
similar.
to be clear on this, the 23 people identified in congregate dining are the 23 people that attended congregate dining in Sanford at the Trafton Center. If you flip back the page, you see, that's where Lorraine has made the note.
So if it serves some of our townspeople, but not in Acton, is it still a worthy service? That's
Well, I
for
think
individuals
it's
to
safe to say
decide.
that a majority of these organizations serve our townspeople not in Acton. So,
Like the Biddeford Free Clinic.
right, I mean,
Yep.
if there are townspeople, but it's not happening in Acton, so I think,
Nor is it necessarily purported to be in Acton necessarily for any of these agencies,
Right.
so, yeah.
I will make a note on the Sanford Acton Shapley Dam Committee, or whatever they're gonna be called now.
Yes, indeed.
They have a contract now that is going to be brought forth. So that would, if we sign as a town, we have not signed into this agreement as of yet. We've just been donating graciously out of the kindness of our hearts.
We have.
If we accept this contract, this no longer becomes a donation, it becomes our dues,
An obligation.
an obligation. So this would move out of this article and out of this category.
But we can't sign the contract till after town meeting, so we have to leave it in
Right.
there this year.
And this contract presumably is between the towns of Newfield and Acton, is that correct?
No.
Acton, Shapley, and Sanford.
This is for the Emery Mills and the Square
Oh,
Pond
both
Dam.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been paying this for the last 3 years, and then on top of that, we have a $5,000 that we've been putting away into a dam fund on top of that. But,
And that would be the Balch Lake Dam.
No, that's.
no, this is
That's a whole
for,
separate thing.
this is
Yeah.
a separate
We put-
fund for dams.
We put $5,000 a year for a dam capital reserve. The $500 we put aside each year for the maintenance of Balch Dam, opening and lowering the gate, that we split that cost with Newfield.
How is it that I'm not seeing the SASDC on there, the 4670? In the black thing that
It's-
didn't
yeah,
come through in the,
it's-
got it.
You can only print in black and white, and your highlights are in different colors.
The rather dark line there is the 4670.
Yeah.
Will the-
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Will the contract, this contract between Shapley, Sanford and Acton, will that come to the floor of the town meeting? Yes.
Ed and Bill have been on the committee, and what they've done is they've designated how many votes for each area. So like Acton will have 2 votes from people that are appointed by the selectmen, and 1 vote or a half a vote for the person from
Half a
Lake.
Half a vote from
Half a
property owner.
vote for a property owner from Mousom?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Shapley will have 2 votes appointed by the selectmen and a half a vote from somebody that lives on
Square.
Square. And then Sanford's gonna have 2 votes appointed by their council, their business manager, and,
A property owner on either one of the 2 lakes that is a Sanford
That
resident.
lives in Sanford.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sanford resident.
so that'll make up the board.
Yeah.
And then they'll determine the budget and the putting the money aside for future in case the dam breaks and things like that. So what was happening when we first started and why we went to this charity way was, Sanford town manager at the time wanted each town to pay a third.
Right.
And Larissa was selectman at the time, and she says, no, she said, your population, your tax base and everything, you should be paying half, and then Shapley and, well, the new town manager has finally agreed to that, so.
There's an older history here too, going back to 98 or 99, I believe. Sanford came to us with a proposal for a repair, and they framed it as a repair to Mousom Lake Dam.
Are you 5 minutes away from it?
I believe it was $300,000, and they
Yeah, I gotta get
Shapley
down
would pick
there.
up a third, Acton would pick up a third, and Sanford would pick up a third. When it actually happened, we discovered that, in fact, the $300,000 was spent on all the dams right on down through the town of Sanford. And I'm serious, this actually happened. And we had a meeting with Sanford and requested a breakout of the funding. You were there, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, which we never got from them. So,
So we could
go into this with your eyes open.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And make sure that there is proper accounting for where the funding is spent and et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, this agreement is specific for the 2 dams, nothing else.
And there's a few other things to, yeah,
The dams, of course, we have the $5,000 for the dam reserve, and then $500 for the lowering and raising of the gate at Balch.
Yeah.
On page 5, use of fund balance, we have our emergency fund or our contingency fund, or whatever you'd like to call it, for $15,000. Another use of fund balance, we're looking at taking $40,000 to put into that capital improvement line again this year. And that's as far as we've gotten there. We are looking to have a use of the capital improvement fund, but we don't have a number to tie down, so we won't bring that in front of the warrant and finance until we have something more specific.
What we want to do is finish the roof. We put it out to bid before, it only got 1 bid, and that was $35,000, so we'll have to put it out to bid again and find out what's going on. We want to finish the siding, but until the roof is done, we don't want it, the sections of wall that haven't been sided yet are the sections of roof that need to be replaced. We don't want to do the roof after we do the siding, so we want to ask for, take money out to finish the roofing, and then we'll use our $25,000 to do at least one side of the building this year, and next year we'll be able to finish the siding and the whole building will be done. So once we find out what it's going to cost to finish the roofing on the town hall, then we'll give you that number that we're going to ask to take out of the, out of that fund, not from tax dollars.
Are you stripping it, or are you just?
It's got to be stripped, yeah. Yeah, we already stripped and did the back, because when we started the siding, we found out that whoever did the roofing never staggered the shingles, so you had straight rows all the way down with no shingle. And then we found that the plywood underneath had not been nailed down properly, so when we started stripping the shingles, the plywood was coming out a little bit. So we have to fix the roof.
$300 a square, I think is what. Roofing is going.
Oh, really?
Department 10209, I believe we sort of skipped over.
Oh. What page is that on?
It's first page.
Oh, planning board.
Planning board.
I was skipped over that specifically. Nobody here to talk about it. They didn't submit a budget, so we left them flatline for next year. They really haven't utilized the budget, but the planning board is one of those things, you don't know what's gonna happen in a year, who's gonna come forward. 5 years ago, when I was working downstairs with Kenny, I mean, we had subdivisions left and right, and we were utilizing that money. Things have been kind of quiet down there, so. Specific questions?
Nope,
No?
just in the interest of completeness.
So what's our total budget?
Well, it'll be a little off on this paper because of
Right,
the
because
number,
there's
the
a typo.
90% off those two line items.
If we look at
$3.
everything that's on here now to raise from taxes. If everything passes to raise from taxes, we're about a 2.4% increase, if everything passes.
Is that including the school?
No.
Or just ours?
Just on the municipal level.
Okay.
But that does include all of the special projects for the roads.
Okay.
So it's almost $53,000 increase in tax assessment.
Okay.
Is it expected that the special projects will be a separate article, or are they going to be?
Yes.
Yeah, they all will be.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. 2 for David and 2 for Scott will be separate articles, and then the fire department tanks have always been a separate article anyways, and that's the only one they're asking for, so.
So anything that would be a big disturbance of the general, annual, repeatable budget would be a separate,
Yeah, and if we can get the school to stay flat on theirs and $10,500 someplace, I think we could come up.
Well,
to make this flat, right?
I gotta say that I'm a bit curious about why with, you know, an apparent relatively abundant undesignated fund, they chose to sort of stick with a number that was decided last year or the year earlier, instead of just covering that extra 10 and saying, okay, we're done.
Yeah, because then they could show their budget was going down and they weren't increasing taxes. Now they're showing the budget's going down, but they are increasing taxes, and they've got $800,000.
Right, and granted, you know, the state is not coming through with some of the expected funds, but to stop $10,000 short of, you know, of getting, actually just getting a straight line budget on that, or net budget,
Yeah.
as opposed to, I mean, they're still throwing $120,000 at it, why not
Yeah, why not?
130 and change? That's just me, but it just
You know,
doesn't
that's-
seem to make sense.
That's something I wanted to ask. They're saying they're throwing $120,000 on it, but before that came from the state, they were saying that they were gonna be $90,000 under last year, so.
Okay, the state this year, and this is going back to the draft numbers from, and we're a little off topic a little bit,
But
unfortunately.
that's okay, we're done with ours, right?
So we're a little, back in December, when the state came up with their draft numbers, and that's what the budget was working on up until a week ago.
Right.
We were working with the state's December draft numbers. And the state was gonna be giving us in subsidy something like $333,000.
Right.
Excuse me, yes.
Yeah, 300.
$333,000. And then, a week ago, we found out from a recent update on the state website that they're only giving us $250,000.
Right.
So there's basically, you know, $111, I think, $111,000 that the state is giving us, unless that has to be made up, it's gonna affect your net budget. So basically what they ended up doing is instead of throwing $40,000 from undesignated, they went up to 120, but that did not totally cover that $111,000 shortfall.
Right.
That's why we're in it with a negative.
Yeah, $10,500, yeah.
So if you're gonna be putting 120, you know, and you've got 800,000 or thereabouts in undesignated, what's the big deal about throwing another 10?
No, I agree.
You know, it's not my budget, and, you know, it is what it is, but it seems to me that it wouldn't have been a big deal there's gotta be a story that I haven't heard, why they would stop short of just balancing the net budget. Granted, you can only do that so long. I mean, at some point, we're gonna have to spend more out of our budget for the school, because just, that's the way it works. I mean, we're spending more than we did 50 years ago in all likelihood, and we're gonna be spending more 50 years from now, but when is that gonna happen, and how is that gonna happen?
Well, with their projections, we're talking 2018, only 120 students in town, so, you know, compared to 190, so I don't
Yep.
see that budget should be going up too much in the near future anyways. It should be going down.
It's tough though, because you still have your plant cost,
Yeah,
your salaries, your
services are always
maintenance,
going to
and
be-
everything. I mean, those are set,
Yeah.
and your population keeps going down.
Yeah, but if you have 190 kids and you go down to 120, you don't need as many teachers and ed techs and all that, because they're just gonna be bumping into each other, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but
One would think.
I would just hope that they would put that $10,500 forward, so that they are not asking for the $10 per family, as Ken was saying that night, because it just doesn't make sense when they have that kind of reserve. Now, we would be able to put, if this 53,000 was what was gonna increase, we would be able to put that forward, correct?
From the undesignated fund?
Undesignated,
Oh,
yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, my whole thought was last year we put up to 200,000 to offset taxes at tax commitment time. We used 51 last year.
Right.
Is to keep that at 200,000, and then, you know, the board, based on the numbers at the end of the year, can decide when tax commitment comes, how much of that we'd feel comfortable using to keep us still in the safe range of what we need to have in the undesignated fund.
Right. Will those proposed articles come before this board?
Which
The whole warrant will come.
Well, I understand that, but, okay, but the board only recommends presumably only recommends on financial questions. The question that I'm presenting is where we designate how much is to be taken from undesignated surplus to
That's an actual question that we started last year that
And the
goes on the
warrant finance
floor.
does make recommendation on
Thank you.
that.
That's-
Yeah, we started that last year. We asked the town to give us permission to withdraw up to $200,000 from the undesignated fund to put forward in order to not raise taxes. And last year, she said, what, 51,000?
51 we
Yeah,
used.
we used 51,000 last year.
This year, we'll see the first effects of the cuts in state revenue sharing. So that might increase that number.
And if the school doesn't put that $10,000 back in, then I think we probably would, just so taxes wouldn't be
I think we'd
raised.
almost have to, yeah.
But I would rather see it come out of their undesignated fund than ours.
Well, I think it comes out of their undesignated fund if you fund the schools with it. The law doesn't say who has to designate it, and I don't believe that, I mean, the school committee made a recommendation basically to you folks, because we didn't vote on an article that says this comes from undesignated and this comes from taxes. I don't believe.
Yeah, they did.
You folks.
At least one of the numbers did have to do with the...
Taking the 120,000 out of the
Oh,
undesignated
that's
fund.
that state article, the one without any periods in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.